Chapter 13-14. In the eyes of those who surrounded Yang Chen's family, from the moment Shi Shanshan rushed out, they fell into the abyss of fear. 5 masters with almost the strongest cultivation base were killed by Shi Shanshan in an instant. Before they were really ready to fight back, the sudden appearance of 7 iron-winged eagles at the Peak Deshang stage directly made their courage fall to the lowest. No one knew how these 7 iron-winged eagles appeared, but one thing was certain: they were by no means on their side. Because on the back of the 7 iron-winged eagles, there was a woman riding on top of Yang Chen, flying towards the outer circle. Yes, that's right, their goal was the outermost periphery, to counter-encircle these guys who jumped out. With the speed of the iron-winged eagles, launched at this distance, there was still no master who could escape their pursuit. At this point, not to mention these guys who did not know the situation, even Yang Chen did not dare to say that he could surpass the speed of the iron-winged eagles by driving the shuttle. Natural high-speed birds had such a talent that sometimes made people desperate. After so many years, the 7 girls and their monster pets could be said to be familiar with each other. The 7 iron-winged eagles, under the communication and command of them using the beast-controlling secret art taught by Yang Chen, were simply an extension of their own bodies. When it was determined that these enemies could no longer escape, the 7 girls turned around and came back. Those who originally surrounded Yang Chen's family would never think that they would be surrounded by Yang Chen. In this case, in addition to going down into the lake to face the weak water, there was no way for them to escape, whether from the surroundings or from the sky. Behind them, the iron-winged eagle and the 7 women had already begun their ferocious slaughter. At this moment, the fellows who were surrounded were like birds in a cage. The strongest few had already been killed at the very beginning, and the remaining fellows could only stretch out their necks to be slaughtered. A cornered dog jumping over a wall, needless to say, they were all masters of the Yuanying and Deshang stage. In the face of such a situation, everyone understood that it was impossible to be good. There was no other way but to go out with all their might. Now that they were surrounded by the 7 girls and the iron-winged eagle, everyone's attention immediately shifted to the innermost part of the circle. Everyone admitted that Shi Shanshan was ferocious. However, she was currently curled up in Yang Chen's arms and her body began to tremble. When they saw this, how could those people not understand that Shi Shanshan had surely utilized some sort of technique that exceeded her current cultivation to cause this to happen? From the looks of it, she didn't seem to have the ability to fight anymore. Yang Chen had always been a 5th-grade alchemy master with the title of an alchemy grandmaster. No one had heard of how strong Yang Chen's reputation was in battle. As for Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, relatively speaking, in addition to their beautiful reputation, they were famous because they were Yang Chen's wives. They did not have a real fierce reputation. The only thing to consider may be Sun Qingxue, the disciple of Elder Hua of the Blue Cloud sect, who did not seem to be a soft persimmon. However, compared with the 7 Peak Deshang stage iron-winged eagles and the 7 Deshang stage female masters, Yang Chen and his 4 wives in the circle were all in the Yuanying stage. Shi Shanshan and Yang Chen could be ignored. The strongest one seemed to be Gong Sunling, who was in the Peak Yuanying stage. It was easier to deal with them than to deal with the outside. In a hurry, many people would lose their judgment and would only use the most basic common sense to guess certain results. From this point of view, the enemies who surrounded Yang Chen did choose a good direction to break the enemy. As long as they could control any one of the women, Yang Chen would yield, which was beyond doubt. Maybe they could also control Yang Chen, which would be even more perfect. More than a dozen masters in the inner circle rushed up first. Sun Qingxue had already taken the initiative to rush into the crowd and was immediately surrounded by 5 or 6 people. Who would let go of such a good opportunity? To everyone's surprise, so many people did not encounter any obstacles and set foot on the deck of the ship. At this moment, Gong Sunling, who had the strongest cultivation base, was actually holding a dish that she didn't know where it came from. She was putting it on the jade table in front of Yang Chen. Her eyes did not even look at these people who rushed up. Your opponent is me. Gao Yu's gentle voice came into everyone's ears softly and quietly, and then the people who rushed to the ship felt their breath stagnant. They didn't know why, their bodies seemed to be completely affected, and even the spiritual power that had been mobilized in the past seemed to be stagnant a lot. This feeling was as if someone had suddenly put an invisible shackle on his body. It was abnormally uncomfortable. In this case, it was already a blessing to be able to exert half of their combat effectiveness. To use a bad description, it was as if they suddenly fell from the realm of the Deshang stage to the Yuanying stage. In fact, this was also the case. Gao Yu, who had absorbed the qi of the human emperor, and later absorbed the qi of the monster emperor, demon emperor and immortal emperor, when the emperor's qi came out, the effect was to knock down the enemies in the circle by a big realm. The enemies of the Deshang stage were directly equivalent to becoming the Yuanying stage. At present, there was basically no way to resist. Amidst the horror of the enemies, Gao Yu smiled and took out 2 flying swords, one red and one green. She held them in her hands and walked toward the guys who still didn't understand what was going on. 2 peculiarly shaped flying swords with dragon horns on them. The group of enemies had no idea what material they were made of. In addition to being able to judge that it must be very advanced, there was no other cognition. However, when Gao Yu's flying sword came down, they still knew how to resist. Chi-chi, 2 extremely slight sounds sounded after Gao Yu's flying sword touched the 2 enemies. The figures of the 2 enemies, who had sacrificed their flying swords to resist, suddenly stopped in place, maintaining the previous movement of controlling the sword with the sword gesture, and did not move. Only the flying sword in the air seemed to suddenly lose control and fell. Clang, the 2 falling flying swords fell to the ground and suddenly turned into 4 pieces. The fracture was as smooth as a mirror. At the same time, 2 thin red lines suddenly appeared on the 2 bodies that stayed in place. In a blink of an eye, the red lines became more and more obvious and thicker, and then the 2 bodies suddenly separated on both sides and turned into 4 pieces. The rest were almost scared out of their wit. Gao Yu actually killed their 2 companions with a flying sword. How was this possible? Wasn't she just a junior in the late Yuanying stage? Yang Chen, it's really more enjoyable for you to use the sword like this. Gao Yu had a smile on her face, and there was no disgusting expression on her face that she had just killed 2 people. Instead, she was talking to Yang Chen about the sword technique with great interest. Chapter 13-15. You're so annoying. Sister, do you want hubby to look at these corpses and drink wine? Before Yang Chen could speak, Gong Sunling had already stomped her feet and complained, I carefully prepared a small banquet for hubby. Gong Sunling, who was complaining, was suddenly held in his arms by Yang Chen's other hand. He laughed and kissed her on the cheek. Suddenly, she became much more well-behaved. She stopped talking and immediately took out a wine pot and a jade cup from nowhere. After filling it up, she sent it to Yang Chen's mouth with her delicate hand. The head is the wine, how comfortable! Yang Chen's heroic voice sounded, and then he drank the wine in Gong Sunling's cup. Then Gong Sunling picked up another dish and sent it to Yang Chen's mouth. In front of the enemy, Yang Chen held his wife in one hand. It was not an exaggeration to say that he enjoyed it as if there was no one else around. However, for Yang Chen's enemies, Yang Chen and Gong Sunling's actions were a clear and unmistakable announcement that they were not taken seriously at all. Turning a blind eye? Was there anything more insulting than this? While Yang Chen was drinking and eating, another enemy's head had already flown up, and at the same time, it was accompanied by his life source magic weapon that became 2 halves. Everyone began to notice the horror of the 2 flying swords in Gao Yu's hands. No matter what kind of magic weapon the opponent used, as long as it came into contact with Gao Yu's sword, it would be easily cut in half. At least so far, there had been no accident. When Gao Yu and Gong Sunling went out to practice, they rarely let others see their natal magic weapons. The enemies had studied the people around Yangchun, but most of their attention was attracted by Sun Qingxue and Shi Shanshan. They could not help but look down on Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, two women who were only born in Chunyang Palace. It couldn't be helped. Not being born in a big sect was a disadvantage. Everyone's first impression was that they were in a favorable position to marry Yangchun. That was all. As for how strong their combat power was, it had never been included in the scope of attention. You can only kill 5 of them. While the battle was intense, Shi Shanshan had already recovered. Her body was no longer trembling, but she could not continue to attack for the time being. However, she was not willing to show weakness and be surpassed by the girls. She immediately shouted at the girls. 5 it is, Gao Yu said loudly, and the sword in her hand had already cut another enemy. She had just killed 3 of them and was experiencing a feeling that was completely different from killing with a flying sword. She did not feel that there was anything wrong with Shi Shanshan's words. Sun Qingxue, who charged into the crowd, did something completely different. Behind her flying sword, there was a very strange, soft and flexible rattan, connecting her with the flying sword. This also made her method of waving the sword different from the flying sword, and different from Yang Chen's hand holding the hilt of the sword. The rattan was like the extended arm of Sun Qingxue. It was light and flexible, making it impossible to guard against. This rattan was simply the blue jade blood demon vine seed that Yang Chen gave her. After it was bred, it was added with the effect of refining the ultimate demonized demon vine, and it was barely regarded as the blue jade blood demon vine. After so many years of refining, it had become another means of her flying sword. At this time, it was just the right time to take it out and try its power on these people. Just for a while, Sun Qingxue's flying sword had penetrated the chests of 2 masters of the early Deshang stage and was circling to the head of the 3rd enemy. Humph, then I can only take advantage of Sister Ling. Hearing the words of Shi Shanshan and Gao Yu, Sun Qingxue seemed a little unconvinced, but she would never fight against Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan, so she could only make such a complaint. Then she directed the blue jade blood demon vine to break the neck of the 3rd enemy and sucked up his whole body's blood, but the flying sword had already fallen on the head of the 4th enemy. The 7 girls on the periphery were having a good time, and suddenly heard the words of Shi Shanshan and Gao Yu, and of course, they also heard the words of Gong Sunling. Although they didn't understand what it meant to take advantage of Gong Sunling, since Gao Yu, Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue only killed 5, then they naturally couldn't kill more. Gao Yu and the others were wives, they were concubines, and they couldn't call them sister. Of course, the 7 girls have never seen the real power of the 4 women, and this time they saw the tip of the iceberg. The situation of Shi Shanshan killing 5 masters surprised them, but Gao Yu easily killing 5 people on the deck of the ship also shocked them, and at the same time they were puzzled. For the first time, they saw Gao Yu's flying sword, which was really an eye-opener. Relatively speaking, Sun Qingxue's performance was a bit of a regular feeling. Except for the strange blue jade blood demon vine, which was somewhat confusing, other places seemed to be normal. Of course, there were also abnormal situations. Sun Qingxue was only in the late Yuanying stage, but the masters she killed were all Deshang stage masters. Gong Sunling hasn't started yet, but the 7 girls have already admired the 3 women from the bottom of their hearts. Even if they were able to kill masters in the past, they could only kill them one-on-one, one against many. It was simply impossible. But the situation in front of them was that the 3 women killed the masters of the Deshang stage as if they were taking things out of their pocket, which was unbelievable. While admiring, the 7 girls also stopped immediately. Strictly speaking, the number of kills each of them had exceeded 5, but if they counted the iron-winged eagle, it was just not enough, which barely exceeded the requirements of Shi Shanshan. It can't be said that it's cheap for me. The 7 girls stopped here, and Gong Sunling had already got up from Yang Chen's arms, stood up, and said after Sun Qingshue's words, "It's very troublesome to condense the spiritual power, but also to refine and purify it. There are a lot of things." The guys who had just surrounded Yang Chen's family were now only half left. The rest of them were also a little scared. In front of Yang Chen's family, they were simply lambs waiting to be slaughtered, and there was no room for resistance. This was still the case where Yang Chen had not made a move yet. They really didn't know what would happen if Yang Chen also made a move. The 7 girls were still wondering what Gong Sunling meant by condensing the spiritual power and refining it, but Gong Sunling had already made a move. In the puzzled eyes of the 7 girls, Gong Sunling seemed to have done nothing, but the girls felt that the scene in front of them had changed dramatically. The remaining guys suddenly disappeared without a trace, as if they had never appeared in the first place. "Before killing, you didn't say anything, that's not good." The doubts of the 7 girls haven't been answered yet, and Yang Chen's voice has sounded like an order. In the future, before killing, you have to say it clearly. At least you have to say a sentence. Which sentence do you want to say? Shi Shanshan did not get up in Yang Chen's arms, and asked with a smile at this time. Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. Chapter 13-16. After flirting with the girls, Yang Chen sat quietly on the ship again, and slowly tasted the wine and wandered around. Anyway, the place where the Langya crystal ship appeared was not fixed. No one knew where it would appear. Wandering like this, he might be able to get lucky. Even if he couldn't get it, it didn't matter. When the Langya crystal ship appeared, the weather would be very abnormal, everyone could notice it, and they would never miss it. Moreover, the Langya crystal ship existed for a long time after it appeared. Even if it was thousands of miles away, there was enough time to rush over, so there was no hurry. Now everyone had to guard against some guys who intended to take advantage of the situation or eradicate competitors in advance. The batch just now had been killed, but no one could guarantee that there would not be any more. Wealth moved people's hearts, not to mention it was a cultivation treasure, wasn't it? Everyone happily began to divide up the Qiankuan bags in their hands. Those who could come in were all guys with some family background. Each of the girls was given a few Qiankuan bags, and all of them were beaming with joy. Anyone would be happy to get a lot of wealth out of thin air. In addition to being happy, Tao Junqi, Shi Wushuang, and the Murong sisters were shocked by the combat effectiveness of Yang Chen's 4 wives. The 4 fairies of the cold plum blossom, Shui Wu, Bai Xia, and Lu Yun had a husband, which was already a beautiful story among the cultivators, but in the eyes of Fairy Junqi, Fairy Qingmu, and Fairy Murong, the 4 fairies were not so convincing. In particular, the 4 women were only in the yuanying stage, but they could be Yang Chen's wives, but they could only be concubines. Originally, they thought that although the 4 women were famous, even if they had experienced the experience of the demon continent, they would at most have the combat effectiveness of the peak yuanying stage. This was also an important reason why the 7 girls could raise their heads in front of the 4 women. Even if they should maintain respect for Gao Yu and the others in etiquette, they had their own reasons to be proud in terms of strength. However, the scene just now gave the 7 women a huge fright. The cold plum blossom fairy of the late yuanying stage killed 5 of the most powerful ones, and then Sun Qingshu and Gao Yu all showed their combat effectiveness that was no less than that of the cold plum blossom fairy, and the last move of Gong Sunling was even more shocking. With a wave of his hand, dozens of Deshang's stage masters disappeared without a trace. How powerful was this? Even if the 7 girls put together, it would be impossible for them to do it as easily as Gong Sunling. Each of the 4 women displayed their skills, and each of them made people feel fearful. Apart from Sun Qingshue's magic treasure, which looked slightly normal, everyone else was a shocking miracle. Even the strange vine that Sun Qingxue used to control the flying sword had an indescribable mystery to it. As for Gao Yu's shocking aura and the situation where the 7 girls found that their cultivation was suppressed, they couldn't help but believe in this big sister. That kind of aura in front of her, all the girls should bow their heads and call her big sister. Speaking of which, Gao Yu, Shi Shanshan and the other 3 girls seemed to be accustomed to all kinds of strangeness in the battle, which could only mean that they already knew each other very well. At this point, the 7 girls seemed to have not yet integrated into this circle, at least they didn't understand how Gao Yu did it. Could it be that this was the benefit of experiencing the Demon Continent experience? None of the 7 girls had been to the Demon Continent, so they didn't dare to guess. Yang Chen and the 4 girls, who had been to the Demon Continent, didn't talk about the Demon Continent, which made the 7 girls curious and a little disappointed. In general, Gao Yu and the others have completely shown that their combat effectiveness is no less than that of Tao Junkie, and even better, the 7 women also felt that invisible pressure. A high realm did not mean everything. The little pride they had before had also disappeared without a trace, and the way they looked at the 4 wives had also changed a little. Perhaps in the battle just now, the aura released by so many iron-winged eagles was too frightening, so that there was no one with bad intentions in this direction. Even if someone noticed the movement here from a distance, they hurriedly avoided it from 100 miles away, and no one came to die. The brief calm was not like this everywhere. Except for the ship within 100 miles where Yang Chen's family was, it seemed that everyone had been triggered, and there were crazy battles everywhere. Almost all those who could enter the Langya Well were masters above the nascent soul stage, and their movements were naturally not small. However, for Yang Chen's family, there was no reason for them to fight. Everyone just sat on the ship and was busy with their own affairs. "Husband, how do we get on the ship?" Feeling those people fighting in the distance, Shi Wushuang asked curiously. Sister Gongsuan's ship may not be able to catch up with the Langya crystal ship. Yang Chen just told them to enter the Langya Well and board the Langya crystal ship, but he never said how to do it, which made the girls very curious. No one understood where Yang Chen's confidence came from. After wondering for a long time, Shi Wushuang finally asked. Relatively speaking, Gao Yugong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingxue had a kind of blind trust in Yang Chen, while the 7 girls who later became a family had relatively less. Even if Yang Chen didn't say it, they had already made their own preparations. They had refined some things according to the records of the sect, and were ready to use them at any time. There were many legends about the Langya crystal ship, and all the major sect had records of it. Therefore, the girls could conclude that it was impossible to board the Langya crystal ship with Gong Suanling's ship. Shi Wushuang had asked this question out of character. She was good at strategizing, so she liked to think things through in advance. She didn't want to be confused like she was now. Yang Chen knew Fairy Qing Mu's character, so he didn't blame her for doubting his actions. To put it bluntly, Shi Wushuang was also worried about everyone's safety, but she didn't know enough about Yang Chen, so she didn't have complete confidence in him. After all, Yang Chen's cultivation was the lowest among them, and the 7 girls had not seen Yang Chen's true strength. Of course not. "Husband, I've prepared something else," Yang Chen replied quickly. Soon, the Langya crystal ship would appear, so there was nothing to hide. In fact, if Shi Wushuang had asked earlier, Yang Chen wouldn't have hidden it either. While they were talking, a violent aura suddenly burst out from the far right side of the ship. Then, a white light shot into the sky, like a towering pillar on the surface of the water. Langya crystal ship. As soon as this berserk aura appeared, countless people stopped fighting and looked in that direction. After being stunned for a moment, they all rushed in that direction crazily. Chapter 13-17. The direction in which the white light appeared was, of course, the target of their trip, the Langya crystal ship. The Langya crystal ship would appear within a few hours after the Langya Well closed. The timing was just right, and it was completely in line with the legend. Everyone flew in that direction and used all kinds of method. They were afraid that if they were too slow, they would not be able to board the Langya crystal ship. If that happened, they could only be trapped in this vast space. If they were lucky, they might be able to wait until the Langya Well opened again. If they were unlucky, they could only wait for death. Gong Xuanling's ship did not wait for Yang Chen's order. It turned around and flew in that direction. However, under Yang Chen's special instructions, the ship did not move too fast. It maintained a speed that was neither too fast nor too slow. It would not be the first to arrive, nor the last to arrive. Husband. This time, it was Tao Junkie who spoke. Fairy Junkie was born among the Taishanmen. Her personality was sometimes similar to that of the Taishanmen. Seeing that the opportunity was right in front of their eyes, they did not use it. She was a little puzzled. Wasn't it better to be the first to arrive? Shouldn't the first to arrive get the most benefits? No hurry. Yang Chen gave Tao Junkie a calm answer. Rumors are rumors after all. No one knows the real situation inside. Let's go and take a look first. Good things don't come first. The one who laughs last is the one who laughs best. This was a safe method. In the current situation, even if they got the good things first, they might not be able to rest easy. None of the people who came in were easy to deal with. It was a common thing for people to swarm and kill others to snatch their treasures in the Languel. At this time, whoever got something first would be the target of everyone. In Tao Junkie's mind, she would naturally get it herself. Then, she would strut around and show off the signboard of the Taishanmen. Naturally, all evil people would be scared away. Could be said that for a long time, Tao Junkie's way of doing things had been like this. In contrast, Yang Chen's safe method was very conservative and not proactive enough. Tao Junkie still wanted to say something, but Shi Wushuang quietly pulled Tao Junkie's clothes and said, "Sister, we will stay in there for at least tens or hundreds of years. We are not in a hurry." Fairy Junkie was not a fool, but because of her style of doing things, Tao Junkie immediately understood what Shi Wushuang meant. With so much time, there was really no need to argue for a while. We came here to find something, and also to find a place where no one will disturb us, so we can concentrate on our cultivation. Yang Chen didn't express his dissatisfaction with Tao Junkie's way of doing things. He just slowly explained, "I really need this kind of thing, but I don't want to be separated from you, so I can only come in as a family. As for the good stuff in the Langya crystal ship, your husband really doesn't care." To be honest, Yang Chen wasn't lying when he said that he didn't care about the things here. At least even Tao Junkie knew that Yang Chen could use the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid to bathe them. In addition, the good things obtained by the Zhao family manor were simply innumerable. The treasures of a family for tens of thousands of years, or even longer, were all cheap for Yang Chen's family. No matter how good the good things in this Languel were, it was at best another Zhao family manor. It was really not worth Yang Chen's heart. After understanding this point, the women's mood also calmed down. Everyone also understood why Yang Chen had to come to the Languel. Since he was just looking for something, there was really no need to panic like others. "What is my husband looking for?" Sun Qingxue was the youngest among all of them. At this time, she jumped out and asked curiously. Not only Sun Qingxue, but the other women were waiting to listen. They all wanted to know what Yang Chen wanted. 7th grade fire seed, pure true fire. For his own wives and concubines, Yang Chen had nothing to hide. When he came to this place, there was no need to hide, and he directly stated his purpose. "Is there a 7th grade pure true fire in the Langya crystal ship?" Shi Wushuang's brows frowned and said with some uncertainty, "According to the legends of those who went out alive in the past, there seems to be no aura of fire. Husband, is there a mistake in the information?" The reason why the Languel was named Languel, in addition to the passage resembling the mouth of the well, there was another important reason. This was an area dominated by water attribute. Almost all the things that those people got were of water attribute. It was indeed very strange for a 7th grade fire seed to appear in such a place. Shi Wushuang couldn't help but doubt that water and fire were incompatible. A place with a complete water attribute suddenly had a 7th grade fire seed. The opposing aura would definitely be noticed by everyone. It was impossible for everyone to not feel it at all. The only explanation was that there was no true fire here and the information Yang Chen got was wrong. The news was given by Big Brother Li Qing. There should be no problem. Yang Chen explained with a smile. If it was so easy to be found, then it would not be our turn to come in and find it. It would have been taken by others. Hearing the news from Li Qing, Yang Chen's wives and concubines all no longer doubted anything. Whether it was the 4 wives' understanding of Li Qing in the Demon Continent, or the 7 concubines who got the gift from the Pique de Shang stage Iron-Winged Eagle, all the women had a kind of admiration for Li Qing that he seemed omnipotent. Since he said that there was, he must not be lying to Yang Chen. Yang Chen was famous for collecting fire seed. Almost all the pill recipes and secret sales were first accepted by the fire seeds, and then accepted the spirit stones. In particular, the 7th grade pure true fire, which was emphasized when he sold the secret of the 5th grade alchemist master, must be extremely important to Yang Chen. Of course, the women were happy to be able to find the fire seeds that his husband urgently needed. Of course, this reason also explained why Yang Chen was not in a hurry. It was not that he was afraid of becoming the target of public criticism at all. It was simply because collecting the 7th grade fire seed was not a matter of a short time. Even if someone got it first, at most, they could only see it, it was impossible to get it at all. As long as Yang Chen could arrive before the other party had completely collected it. When it came to playing with fire, all the wives and concubines of Yang Chen believed that no one in this world could be better than Yang Chen. The speed of the ship was not fast, so it was mixed in a group of cultivators who were in a hurry. At this time, people obviously didn't care about killing each other. It was important to board the ship first. The final fight was still after boarding the ship. It was not too late to start after seeing the real treasure. Now it was just an appetizer. In less than half a day, the cultivators arrived at the location and concentrated in the area of a few miles around the light beam. Everyone stared cautiously at the flat-bottomed ship that shone with silver light under the light beam, as if it was plated with a layer of crystal stone, and their eyes were burning. Chapter 13:18. The Langya Crystal Ship. Everyone who saw this flat-bottomed ship had the same thought in their minds. Their destination, or their temporary destination, was this Langya Crystal Ship. No one knew how the Langya Crystal Ship appeared, and no one knew where the Langya Crystal Ship originally was. Everyone only knew that the ship suddenly appeared here, and then caused a burst of heaven and earth phenomenon. Everyone was attracted by the pillar of light and the eruption of momentum. As for the people who originally stayed in this area, no one knew what the result was. The huge Langya crystal ship was nearly 1,000 feet long, and its surface was shining brightly, almost impossible to look at directly. If it weren't for the fact that they were surrounded by cultivators, they would have gone blind just by staring at the Langya crystal ship. Of course, in everyone's eyes, besides the shining Langya crystal ship, the focus of everyone's attention was the nearly 1 mile of dark space around the crystal ship. This seemingly pitch-black, lifeless space, even the water around the crystal ship was cleanly repelled. It seemed to be empty, but everybody knew that this dark space was the biggest obstacle to boarding the crystal ship. According to everyone's vision, the crystal ship should be several hundred feet underwater, so it was normal for it to repel water. But no one knew how deep the weak water was, so no one dared to take the risk to board the ship. The appearance of the shining crystal ship was too tempting. Finally, after a moment, someone could not help but be impatient and began to take action. There were too many legends left by the survivors outside the Langya crystal ship. Almost everyone here knew how to board the ship. Everyone had made thorough preparations outside, waiting for the arrival of this moment. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. From several directions, dozens of different kinds of long ropes appeared. The long ropes flashed with various colors of light. One by one, some fast, some slow, they all flew towards the Langya crystal ship. When they approached the Langya crystal ship, All the long ropes were either hooked or glued, firmly fixed on the surface of the crystal ship. These long ropes, without exception, were carefully refined, and there were all kinds of materials. There were spider silk, and even some metal wires or some kind of thick rope made of hair. All the long ropes had a common characteristic, and that was, they were sturdy. If it was not sturdy enough, it would be impossible to board the Langya crystal ship with the help of the long rope. The long ropes were successfully attached to the crystal ship. Before the group of people could rejoice, a few of the long ropes suddenly snapped in the middle. In the dark space, there seemed to be countless invisible blades slashing at the long ropes in a frenzy. Those that were not sturdy enough were directly cut off. How could this be? In the quiet space, a miserable cry suddenly rang out. It was the owner of one of the long rope. They had painstakingly prepared for over 100 years, only to end up like this. Without the rope, there was no hope of boarding the ship, and they could only wait for death here. Cultivators all had hearts of stone. Everyone watched helplessly as those people fell into such a situation, but no one said anything. They didn't even look at them with sympathy. No one forced them to enter the Langya well and fall into this predicament. To be honest, they had to be mentally prepared for this from the beginning. In addition, apart from a few people, no one was sure that they could board the Langya crystal ship. They might end up in the same situation later, so how could they have the time to sympathize with others? Those people whose ropes were still very sturdy had already begun to board the ship excitedly. A few long ropes that had been refined were tied to the other end in a very sturdy way. Then, they began to shrink. A few figures entered the dark space and flew quickly towards the Langya crystal ship. Those with sharp eyes had already discovered that in just a short while, those long ropes seemed to be modeled, as if they had been there for many years. Those who had already rushed out desperately accelerated, hoping that they could bring themselves to the Langya crystal ship before something happened to the long rope. However, just as they were halfway through the journey, a dozen or so long ropes that were in the middle of shrinking suddenly broke into several pieces. A dozen or so figures suddenly let out a few uneven screams. Their bodies seemed to be attracted by a huge gravitational force as they flew away from the crystal ship one after another. Putong putong, a few sounds of falling into the water were heard by the people who were still watching. Those people had already fallen onto the water surface of the space, as if they were falling from the sky. For some reason, those cultivators in the space were unable to fly away. Whether they were at the nascent soul stage or the great ascension stage, they couldn't even change direction. They fell into the water while dancing. Then, there was no more sound. Thousands of people watched from all directions as the dozen people who fell into the water struggled for a while in the clear and transparent water, and then their bodies gradually became motionless. Everyone who saw this scene felt a burst of cold in their hearts. Everyone now understood where those well-preserved corpses that could be clearly seen from the water surface came from. But the more they understood, the more intense the fear in their hearts became, and the less confidence they had. Whoosh whoosh, the sound of two objects cutting through the air at high speed sounded. Two arrow-like rays of light had already shot towards the Langya crystal ship from two directions. Needless to say, these were two people who had refined high-speed magic treasures. They were trying to rush through this space at high speed and smoothly board the ship. Their wishes were beautiful, but the reality was cruel. The two rays of light looked to be getting slower and slower. Just when they were about 100 feet away from the crystal ship, they finally exhausted their strength and stopped. Then, they began to involuntarily fall. One of the cultivators was very clever. Below the falling point, there happened to be a long rope that was still shrinking. When the cultivator just started to fall, he just happened to grab the center of the long rope, and the long rope suddenly changed direction. The owner of the long rope let out a cry of horror, but he couldn't stop this guy from borrowing the strength of the long rope to approach the Langya crystal ship. But unfortunately, good times don't last long. Just when the guy borrowing the strength of the rope thought that his plan was successful, a tragedy occurred. The taut long rope directly broke, and the two figures let out two long screams at the same time. This lasted until they fell into the water before abruptly stopping. In the beginning, there were still more than a dozen people who relied on the long rope to pull closer. Everyone's eyes were focused on them. If they succeeded, they would be the first group of people to board the ship. If they failed, they would be another group of cannon fodder to scout the way for the later people. Chapter 13:19. The surrounding people watched as those people slowly approached the Langya crystal ship. Except for a few people, the others were so nervous that they could not say a word. Their eyes were glued to the ship, for fear of missing a single detail. One had to know that the scene of successfully boarding the ship was something that everyone had only heard of before. Now that they had seen it with their own eyes, the actual experience was more convincing than anything else. Unfortunately, among the remaining dozen people, half of them still did not make it to the end. Under the witness of the crowd, a few people once again failed when they were less than 100 feet away from the Langya crystal ship. They screamed miserably and fell into the Ruhr River, becoming a new batch of lifelike specimens. The remaining few people, under the envious eyes of countless people, boarded the surface of the Langya crystal ship. Then, their figures flickered and disappeared. Needless to say, they must have entered the interior of the Langya crystal ship. Boom! As the first person successfully boarded the ship, the surrounding onlookers no longer had the good mood of watching a play. Someone boarding the ship meant that someone had taken the initiative. If they did not make a move, not to mention others eating meat, they would not even have any soup to drink. What did everyone come here for? It was not to watch others get rich. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the continuous sound continued to ring. This time, at least hundreds of people simultaneously took out their magic weapons. Countless long ropes were connected to the Langya crystal ship. Hundreds of figures rushed into the dark space at the same time. After seeing so many people die this time, almost all of the people who rushed out were experts and those who had more confidence in their magic weapons. Relatively speaking, there were fewer accidents. But even so, there were still dozens of people who could not persist to the end and fell into the Ruhr River with screams. But there were more people who successfully boarded the ship. After arriving at the Langya crystal ship, their eyes were filled with ecstasy, and then their figures flashed and disappeared. This scene stimulated even more people. Those who were watching and hesitating no longer held back and began to move. If they did not board the ship now, there would be no soup left. The people who took action did not just board the ship. After realizing that they had full confidence in boarding the ship, some experts began to attack. Everyone knew that there were too many monks and too little meat. With one less competitor, they might get more benefits. At the moment, they were hot-headed and rushed to attack the people around them. Before they had even boarded the ship, a full-scale battle had already begun in the dark space. With the help of thousands of long ropes, one end was connected to the crystal ship, and the other end was connected to themselves. Just like that, they began to fight crazily. Not only were they attacking the people, but they were also attacking the rope. This time, even the guys who attacked at the beginning began to feel afraid. The rope wasn't as well protected as the others. In order to survive, everyone could only attack more fiercely. This time, many of the people who fell into the Ruhr River were already corpses, and some of their bodies were incomplete. Although there were still about 100 people who successfully boarded the ship, the tragic scene just now had already frightened many people who were preparing to board the ship. The sudden massacre also resulted in a long period of time where no one rushed into the space. In the end, an unknown expert directly transmitted his voice. Everyone, use your own abilities to board the ship. Life and death will be up to fate. When boarding the ship, let's not fight. Otherwise, no one will be able to board, and it will only benefit those who boarded first. What does everyone think? This proposal was actually very tempting. If no one boarded the ship, no one would agree, but someone had already boarded. If everyone hesitated here, then the treasures of the Langya crystal ship would have nothing to do with them. Alright, let's do it. No one was a fool. Immediately, someone began to respond, if you want to fight, it won't be too late to fight after boarding the ship. When boarding the ship again, it seemed that there was order. This time, not many people went out, and basically, everyone did not interfere with each other. Apart from those unlucky guys, basically everyone boarded the ship smoothly, and there was no more killing. Batch after batch of people boarded the ship. In the end, those who were left were those who lacked confidence. Originally, everyone rushed in excitedly, but after referring to the previous people who failed, they realized that their preparation was not enough. If they rashly boarded the ship, only death awaited them. But if they did not board the ship and stayed here, they could not escape death. There was no way out, and many people were already on the verge of collapse. Just when some people finally could not bear it anymore and decided to risk their lives, a few gentle voices suddenly sounded from all directions. Bring people to board the ship. Each person will be given 50 kilograms of upper-grade spirit stones. I guarantee that you will be brought safely to the crystal ship. Suddenly hearing this voice at the critical moment of life and death, those desperate guys seemed to have found a life-saving straw. They became frantically excited and began to look around to see who was speaking. The owners of the voices did not hide anything. They came out from the crowd and revealed their true faces. Seeing their figures, some people immediately recognized their identity, and all of them became excited. It's Senior Liu who successfully came out of the Langya well last time. Senior Li who entered the Langya well. The 7 or 8 people who came out were all people who were known to have entered the Langya well and came out alive. Their shouts were like the sounds of nature to these despairing people. Everyone felt as if they had returned to heaven from hell. Since they had gone in and came out safely, they must have absolute confidence to board the ship. Originally, everyone had to risk their lives to fight for it, but now they only needed to pay 50 kilograms of upper-grade spirit stones. Such a deal, anyone could calculate it. If they had known this earlier, why would they bother to prepare? As long as they brought the spirit stones, they could successfully board the ship. Those people in front of them could be said to have died in vain. But then again, if it weren't for the example set by those people in front of them, how could the people behind be willing to pay this price to board the ship? It had to be said that this was a good deal. These masters who re-entered the Langya well had already gotten a lot of benefits before they boarded the ship. The people who came in were either Yuanying or Deshang stage masters. Although 50 kilograms of upper-grade spirit stones was not a small amount, it was not unbearable for people. It didn't seem to be much, but with so many people, each person who brought people to board the ship would bring an average of 100 people, and they could receive dozens of kilograms of top-grade spirit stones here. Yang Chen's family had not made a move yet, but no one paid attention to them. After witnessing all this, except for Yang Chen, all the women were stunned. How could this work? Okay, no need to look, we should also set off. Yang Chen's voice called everyone's attention back. Why don't you let them bring it in? I will see for myself if I can collect some weak water. Chapter 13:20. Yang Chen really took a fancy to the weak water. Although he did not know how powerful it was for the time being, whether it was a master of the Yuanying stage or a master of the Deshang stage, all of them had the same result, which had fully explained the horror of the weak water. If it was his previous life, Yang Chen probably would not have any extra thoughts, but now it was different. After collecting the treasure house of the Dragon Palace, Yang Chen not only had the 5-element hook in his hand, but also a gourd that could hold any liquid. Encountering such an opportunity, it would be too unreasonable not to take the opportunity to collect some weak water. This was clearly a benefit sent to Yang Chen's mouth by the heavens. In an old saying, if you don't take the heavens' gift, you will be blamed. In any case, Yang Chen had to collect some. The women were not willing to let them leave their husband and accept the protection of those people to board the crystal ship and watch their husband take risk. not to mention Gao Yu, Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue, even Tao Junqi, Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters, these concubines, would not accept such an arrangement. No matter what Yang Chen said, the women were determined to follow Yang Chen regardless of life and death. Everyone was afraid of being separated from their husband, and they were also afraid that Yang Chen would sometimes do some extremely risky things. If there were women with him, Yang Chen would restrain himself a little and not get carried away. Yang Chen could ignore what others said, but Gao Yu spoke. This matter was the final conclusion, and Yang Chen could not refute it. There was no way. Yang Chen could only take the women into the medicine garden, so that they could see the situation outside at any time. He took out the 5-element hook and buckled it on his wrist. In several directions, people had already begun to pay spirit stones, and then they were collected into a certain portable magic weapon by those who had entered the crystal ship, and the number of people was greatly reduced. The rest of the people were also queuing up. At this time, no one would choose the former between taking a risk and 50 pounds of high-grade spirit stones. Among the people who stayed, it seemed that only Yang Chen intended to board the ship with his own means. Grandmaster Yang. Yang Chen's reputation was well known, and almost everyone who came in knew of him. Just as someone nearby was about to open his mouth and try to befriend Yang Chen had already leaped into the dark space. That person's words were immediately stuck in his throat. While he was in the air, the 5 elements cable hook grew crazily like a living creature. It nimbly penetrated the space and directly attached itself to the Langya crystal ship. Each of the 5 hooks found a protrusion on the crystal ship and firmly fastened it. If one didn't enter the dark space, one wouldn't be able to feel the feeling inside. As soon as he entered, Yang Chen discovered that there was a strong suction force coming from all directions, seemingly wanting to pull his body towards the surroundings. It was as if the crystal ship was rejecting him. The 5 elements hooks instantly straightened and withstood the force. In the deep well of the Dragon Palace in the Sea of No Return, the 5-element hook could easily pull Yang Chen. The suction here was not a problem at all. After Yang Chen tried a few times, he became more and more sure in his heart. However, the dark space did not only have such a little repulsive force. Although it seemed to be empty, Yang Chen could clearly feel an invisible wind, carrying the power of time, affecting everything in the space all the time. Most of the guys whose long ropes were broken were eroded by this power of time, causing the long ropes to decay and break, and people in it would inevitably be affected. Those who entered seemed to be fine, but if they did not immediately restore their vitality after boarding the ship, they would definitely become seriously ill. In this way, there was almost no difference between boarding the ship early or late. No wonder those guys who returned to the Langyuel were not in a hurry at all. On the one hand, they were waiting for the last opportunity to make money. On the other hand, it was estimated that they had more preparations. The remaining time to restore their vitality was equivalent to having the upper hand. After discovering this, without thinking about it, the Dragon Clan Golden Bell appeared outside Yang Chen's body, wrapping Yang Chen tightly. 3 dragon shadows began to fly up and down around the Golden Bell, flashing a burst of light from time to time, blocking the wind of the 5 elements. In the eyes of others, Yang Chen's figure did not approach the crystal ship as quickly as others, but began to fall slowly, as if the long rope in his hand could no longer support his figure. A promising 5th-grade alchemist master died like this. It was really a pity to look at it. However, at this time, who had the confidence to save Yang Chen? Even those who returned to the Langyuel could only ensure that they successfully boarded the ship with their space magic weapon, but it was impossible to rescue Yang Chen in this situation. The more he went down, the more powerful the dragon shadow on the Golden Bell outside Yang Chen's body became. Yang Chen felt that some invisible erosive force was getting stronger and stronger. It was even mixed with a lot of the power of the 5 elements. If it wasn't for the powerful spiritual awareness of Yang Chen, it would be impossible to detect this. No wonder after those masters fell down, they just danced and couldn't save themselves. It turned out that they were being attacked at any time and couldn't get out. After falling into the weak water, they had been attacked and wanted to struggle out, which was as difficult as ascending to the sky. Fortunately, the magic weapon of the Dragon Clan was really powerful, and Yang Chun himself had the power of the 5-element. Even if there were some 5-element attacks, they could not affect Yang Chen in the slightest. Yang Chen's figure slowly fell and the 5-element hook slowly stretched out. After a while, it reached the bottom of the space and was about to reach the water surface. Pulling the hook with his right hand, Yang Chen turned his left hand and a blue-yellow gourd appeared in his hand. He slowly reached to the edge of the space and the water surface. The mouth of the gourd plunged into the weak water and began to collect. The gourd was indeed a magic weapon of the Dragon Clan. Under such circumstances, it did not have the slightest effect. No matter how strong the weak water was, it was also a liquid. Yang Chen could directly feel that a liquid that was completely different from ordinary water flowed into the gourd and formed a small pool in the gourd. The long rope of the 5-element hook maintained this length, confronting the terrifying gravitational force. Yang Chen's figure also hovered in the air, quietly waiting to collect enough weak water. Everyone outside, except for the few old people who had entered the Langya well, had already entered other people's space magic weapon. Those people finally understood what Yang Chen was doing. Surprised, they could only look at him enviously. Although the weak water was good, they did not have this ability and the courage to do such a thing. Chapter 13:21. The gourd was only collected for a while, and Yang Chen suddenly felt an abnormality. His spiritual awareness did not detect anything, but Yang Chen still withdrew his hand without thinking and pulled the gourd out of the water. Even so, it seemed that it was still a step late. An invisible and colorless flame had already wrapped the entire gourd and began to burn. Even not only the gourd, the flame had already rushed to Yang Chen's hand holding the gourd. In the weak water, there was actually such a hidden flame that people could not detect at all. If Yang Chen did not try to collect the weak water, he could not find it at all. What made Yang Chen even more surprised was that he seemed to feel that there was something else entering the gourd, but now he was affected by the flame, and he could not find out what it was. The invisible and colorless flame did not even have the burning heat of the ordinary flame, as if it did not exist at all. But Yang Chen held the gourd in his hand and could easily feel the burning of the flame. This kind of flame would not heat up, and it seemed that it would not burn the gourd, but the fire that had spread to Yang Chen's hand had begun to spread upward. At the same time, the yin-yang heaven-burning fire in his body had a stirring posture, as if it was going to be out of control. He could not feel the damage for the time being, but it did not mean that there was no damage. Yang Chen was a grandmaster of playing with fire, and he could understand this better than anyone else. Water and fire were ruthless, it was not just a saying. The more silent and invisible the flame, the more terrifying the damage it could bring to people. Those who fell into the weak water, many of them were of the water attribute. According to reason, even if it was not good, they could also support it for a while. The problem was that no matter what the attributes of the people who fell in, they could not hold on for more than a dozen breaths in the weak water. That was by no means an accident. This flame was probably one of the key reasons. For the time being, it was impossible to distinguish what kind of flame it was. Yang Chen did not care to distinguish it. At this time, it was important to save his hand and the gourd. Those things in the gourd, except for some spirit springs, could not afford to lose anything else. The best magic weapon to collect the fire seeds was the profound spirit furnace, but this was not a good time to collect the fire seeds. It was important to board the ship first. After boarding the Langya crystal ship, there would be plenty of time and a safe place to collect them. At this time, Yang Chen didn't care about anything else. He controlled the 5-element hooks to shrink rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, rushed to the Langya crystal ship. As soon as he came into contact with the Langya crystal ship, he could not help but be transported to another place. As soon as he stepped on it, Yang Chen released Gao Yu and the other women. Guard! He really couldn't explain anything. Yang Chen only said these two words and sat down cross-legged. Then he sacrificed the profound spirit furnace and began to control the profound spirit furnace close to the burning flame, trying to collect it. The women did not understand what Yang Chen did in the end. They only knew that he collected some weak water, and then quickly boarded the crystal ship with a huge change in expression. Seeing how cautious Yang Chen was, no one dared to be negligent. They immediately split into several directions, protecting Yang Chen in the center. In such a short time, the flame that was originally only burning on the hand had already jumped to the elbow, and it seemed that it would soon rush to the big arm. And Yang Chen's left hand had already felt a little sluggish. This was definitely the power of the flame. It could make Yang Chen, a big expert in playing with fire, become like this. It was absolutely the level of the 6th grade. As soon as the profound spirit furnace touched the fire seed, Yang Chen suddenly had a bad feeling. It seemed that this fire seed could destroy the spirit of the profound spirit furnace. This was not a good phenomenon. Yang Chen put a lot of effort into the profound spirit furnace. The so-called spirit was a personal mark of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness imprint, which was constantly enhanced and constantly sacrificial refining was formed. Once it was lost, Yang Chen's previous sacrificial refining results would be ruined. Yang Chen has never touched such a fire seed. It was invisible and colorless, and it did not even hurt the body. When his spiritual awareness touched it, there was a sign of melting. How could he collect it? In an instant, Yang Chen's cold sweat came out. And the women who were paying attention to Yang Chen all the time, when they saw the sweat on Yang Chen's head and face, they were all shocked. After being in contact with Yang Chen for so long, who has ever seen Yang Chen sweating like this? Fortunately, Yang Chen was just nervous at the time, but he calmed down immediately. Several methods flashed through his mind in an instant, and then he immediately determined the one that he felt was most likely to work. The merit chapter given by Big Brother Li Qing, could do many things that could not be done with normal technique. The only side effect was that it needed to consume a lot of merit. At this moment, Yang Chen, in order to save the gourd profound spirit furnace and his own life, what was the merit? A lot of merit began to flow to the profound spirit furnace and the gourd. Of course, the arm would never be missed. With the protection of the merit chapter, Yang Chen immediately noticed that the flame was no longer spreading upward. There was a door. With the blessing of the merit, the profound spirit furnace finally no longer had any loss and began to deeply contact the flame. A lot of merit was filled into the profound spirit furnace by Yang Chen, protecting the profound spirit furnace and collecting these nameless fire seeds little by little. At the same time, the gourd was also protected, and it would not be damaged and reduced in grade. A trace of the flame was collected by the profound spirit furnace and stored in a suitable place. The profound spirit furnace was worthy of being the alchemy furnace that could be ranked in the heavenly court in the future. When it was not hurt by the flame, it showed its extremely powerful effect. Yang Chen felt that the flame on his arm was reduced little by little, slowly returned from the elbow to the wrist, and returned to the palm, fingers, and the flame that burned to the body was all absorbed. After the flame on his hand was gone, he began to target the flame burning on the gourd. In the same way, the flame on the gourd was finally collected into the profound spirit furnace. When the last trace of flame disappeared, even Yang Chen could not detect any residual. Yang Chen finally breathed a sigh of relief and no longer worried. The crisis passed quietly, and while Yang Chen relaxed, he also began to ponder. This kind of fire seed that has never been seen before, invisible and colorless, and it does not burn the body. Is it the goal that Yang Chen intends to find in the Langya well this time, the 7th grade pure true fire? As soon as this idea came out, it began to grow uncontrollably, and even Yang Chun couldn't believe it. Although his own luck was good, it was not good to this point, right? Is this really pure and true fire? However, pure and true fire, Yang Chun has never seen it, and he is not sure. This is not pure and true fire, but spirit-devouring dragon fire. When Yang Chen was guessing, a thought came directly from the gourd and passed to Yang Chen's mind. Chapter 13:22. Spirit-devouring dragon fire. Listening to this voice, Yang Chen was also shocked. On the one hand, it was because of the name of this flame, on the other hand, it was because of this sudden sound. When Yang Chen collected the weak water, he noticed that something was wrong. It seemed that something had gotten into the gourd. But at that time, Yang Chen had no time to take care of it because he was entangled in the flame. Sure enough, now this guy jumped out. Fortunately, the guy who jumped out and made a sound, after Yang Chen's inspection, was not a terrifying enemy. At this moment, Yang Chen had no worries, and naturally he could easily explore the situation in the gourd. The guy who made the sound was clearly a very weak spirit body. The sound could be transmitted to Yang Chen's mind because the other party and Yang Chen's spiritual awareness were in contact, and he used a method similar to the beast controlling secret art to achieve his goal. For Yang Chen, the other party did not have the ability to hurt himself. On the contrary, if Yang Chen wanted to, he could easily eliminate this weak spirit body. The spirit-eroding dragon fire also shocked Yang Chen. This kind of legendary flame that could only be encountered but not sought was actually encountered here. As the name suggests, the spirit-devouring dragon fire was a flame unique to the dragon clan. Because there was no dragon clan in the world, this kind of flame was almost extinct. He didn't expect that there would be one here, and it was also collected by Yang Chen into the profound spirit furnace. He didn't know whether to say that Yang Chen was lucky or bold. If the spirit-devouring dragon fire was calculated according to the grade, it was also a 7th grade fire seed, one of the strongest fire seeds in the world. With Yang Chen's current ability, in fact, he did not have the ability to collect the spirit-devouring dragon fire. Yang Chen had only heard of this kind of fire seed. The 2 words of the spirit-devouring dragon fire clearly indicated the characteristics of the fire seed. The main power was to burn all kinds of spirit bodies. If it was placed on a living creature, it would burn the spiritual awareness of the living creature. If it wasn't for the fact that he was lucky enough to obtain the merit chapter from Li Cheng and was proficient in cultivating it, Yang Chen might have died on the Langya crystal ship. A trace of fear flashed in his mind. Yang Chen did not have the time to communicate with the spiritual body. He first informed his wife and concubine that he was fine. They had probably been waiting anxiously for a long time. Especially since they were on the Langya crystal ship, which was full of danger, they were even more anxious. Seeing that Yang Chen was fine, the women finally felt relieved. For Yang Chen's bold behavior, the women did not know how to comment. In the end, Gao Yu came forward and severely reprimanded Yang Chen for this irresponsible risky behavior. After Yang Chen repeatedly promised that there would be no next time, Gao Yu restrained her anger. As for Sun Qingxue, when Gao Yu scolded Yang Chen, she had already sneaked into Yang Chen's arms and scolded him. After the women were at ease, Yang Chen didn't care about the situation of the Langya crystal ship now. He first settled the guy in the gourd. Under the spirit-devouring dragon fire, the spiritual body could hide safely in the gourd. It had to be said that it definitely had some skills. But the spiritual body was a spiritual body. In the face of this kind of spirit-devouring dragon fire that specifically restrained him, he couldn't escape unscathed. The reason why he was so weak was probably because of the fire seed. Who are you? Why is there a magic weapon made from the dragon's body? To Yang Chen's surprise, before Yang Chen could ask about the identity of the spiritual body, the other party had already found him first. Are you tired of living? The tone was full of a silent anger. Even if he was very weak, he did not hide his attitude that might anger Yang Chen at any time. Yang Chun admired this guy very much. His courage was not worse than Yang Chen's, and his eyes were also first class. He immediately found out that the gourd was a magic weapon of the Dragon Clan. He didn't know if there was a master who fell into the weak water and had been living in this spirit-body state until now. Being able to survive in this environment was definitely worthy of Yang Chen's admiration. I am Yang Chen, may I ask the senior's name? Yang Chen tried to use the beast-controlling secret art to communicate with the other party. This was also a last resort. No matter how the other party used to be, now it was just a spiritual body, and the most convenient way to communicate with the spiritual body was the beast-controlling secret art. The other party did not reject Yang Chen's beast-controlling secret art and easily established a communication bridge. Now that the spiritual body was extremely weak, there was not much power to actively maintain communication with Yang Chen. It was much easier for Yang Chen to take the initiative. What surprised Yang Chen was that after using the beast-controlling secret art to communicate with the other party, Yang Chen could not judge whether the other party was a human or a demon. This was something that had never happened before. Yang Chen could not help but raise his spirit. This guy was not easy to deal with. Where did you get the dragon corpse? With your ability there is no way to refine it. Who refined it for you? The other party did not answer Yang Chen's question, but asked a series of questions, all related to the dragon magic weapon. Although I have a relationship with the Dragon Clan, there is no need to explain it to the senior, right? Yang Chen's face did not change, and replied calmly. The other party's tone was not small, but now his life and death was in the hands of Yang Chen. As long as Yang Chen was willing, the other party could be destroyed at any time. Even if the attitude of the spiritual body was not good, there was no need for Yang Chen to care about this guy who could be killed countless times with a finger. On the contrary, how the other party was able to escape from the spirit-devouring dragon fire made Yang Chen very interested. He had to get more things from this guy. No, who are you? How can there be so many distiller's yeast collected by the Dragon Clan? For a while, the dragon body did not pay attention to Yang Chen, but after finding so many distiller's yeast of the jade dragon wine in the gourd, he finally couldn't help but ask in surprise. Senior knows these distiller's yeast? Yang Chen's eyes lit up, and there was a lot of expectation in his heart. The distiller's yeast collected by the Dragon Clan, it seems that only the dragon itself can be recognized. Could it be that this spiritual body is actually a dragon spirit? These things have fallen into your hands, is the Dragon Clan declining? The other party did not answer, and after a while, he asked. Although he did not give a definite answer, Yang Chen could already be sure that the other party must be a dragon spirit. Only in this way could he explain how he could escape death in the spirit-devouring dragon fire. Unless it was a guy who understood the dragon fire to the extreme, it was impossible to resist the spirit-devouring dragon fire in the state of a spiritual body. This guy was a dragon, and it was very likely to be a dragon spirit of a fire dragon. All the dragons have ascended, and there are no dragons in the mortal world. After confirming the identity of the other party, Yang Chen immediately received a treasure and replied quickly. At the same time, he did not forget to say, if Senior still wants to find companions, it is impossible. Chapter 13:23. Well, it's not bad to ascend to the spiritual world. The life in the immortal world is hundreds of times better than in the mortal world. The dragon spirit didn't care about the little trick in Yang Chen's words and commented directly, and then suddenly asked, "It seems that you have guessed the identity of this old man. Please enlighten me, Senior." Yang Chen passed a kind message to the other party and said with a smile, "Where did you get this gourd?" The other party asked again impatiently. After such a long time, the dragon spirit seemed to be getting weaker and weaker. Even the thought that was passed over had an uncontrollable panting. This younger generation junior said that this younger generation junior and the Dragon Clan have a lot of connections. Yang Chen did not explain in detail, but first stopped the dragon from asking, "Don't worry, senior, you are in a bad state now. Let this younger generation junior refine some medicinal pills to help you recover." "Help me, guard, I'm going to refine a medicinal pill." Just now, the communication with the dragon spirit has been through the beast controlling secret art and spiritual awareness communication. Others can neither see nor hear it. Yang Chen decided to refine the pill and immediately ordered the women again. The women were a little stunned and didn't know why Yang Chen wanted to refine the medicinal pill at this time. But they all understood that since Yang Chen had made a decision, it would not be easily changed. As a woman of Yang Chen, at this time, there was no other choice but to follow Yang Chen's instructions. Everyone was already on the Langya crystal ship. For the time being, as long as the women paid attention to their vigilance, there would be no blind guy who would dare to provoke the 7 Deshang stage masters and 4 Peak Yuanying stage masters. It was very safe. Yang Chen's actions made the women feel relieved. Alchemy was much better than risking their lives on the edge of the weak water, right? As for the treasures in the Langya crystal ship, from the beginning, Yang Chen said that he wanted the pure true fire. Other things would belong to whoever found them. After the influence of Yang Chen's wealth, the women did not put the treasures that might appear in the Langya crystal ship in their eyes. There was no need to compete with others at this time. The people on the Langya crystal ship looked at the Yang family in amazement. They put on such a posture they didn't know what they were thinking. They finally got on the Langya crystal ship, but they didn't look for treasures around. Were they waiting for the treasures to jump into their arms? Unexpectedly, the guys who had come to the Langya well had released all the customers they brought in at this moment. In this regard, they seemed to be very tactful. None of the people who paid the spirit stones were in life-threatening danger. All of them safely boarded the Langya crystal ship. However, like Yang Chen's family, they all found a corner to meditate and there was no hurry to find the treasures. No one understood what they were doing. Those lucky fellows who boarded the ship began to search around. It was unknown how many people regretted it in their hearts. If they had known that there would be these guys who could bring people on board, and that they could board the ship with only 25 kilograms of upper-level spirit stones, why did they have to spend so much money and risk their lives to board the ship? Yang Chen ignored these guys who were greedy for treasures, put out the profound spirit furnace and concentrated on refining medicinal pills. This time, he was concocting the same kind of pill that the heaven-seizing pill had used to restore the pill spirit. It was to restore the dragon spirit. The current Yang Chen was no longer the same as before. The medicinal ingredients he used were many times better than what Elder Wu Xiong had prepared in the past. The only thing he lacked was the powder of the Dragon Ball. The dragon bead was the inner core of the dragon clan. In the past, there was a very large one in the grass treasure house of the dragon clan. It had been thrown to Xiao Tian to swallow and refine. He didn't know if there were any left at the moment. With a little thought, Yang Chen immediately contacted Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian has not yet been able to completely refine the dragon bead, but for Yang Chen's method of asking for a little powder, Xiao Tian seemed very stingy. After a lot of persuasion, after promising a purified evil bead, he got a little. Since he wanted to be a good person, he would be a good person to the end. When refining the medicinal pills, Yang Chen did not hesitate to add the method of the merit chapter and spent a lot of his own merit to restore the dragon spirit to its best state. At this moment, the dragon spirit was already in Yang Chen's gourd. Yang Chen was not afraid that the dragon spirit would be a threat to Yang Chen after it became strong. To put it bluntly, not to mention that it was just a dragon spirit in the mortal world, even if it was the dragon spirit of the East Sea Dragon King of the Heavenly Court, Yang Chen was also sure that he would be subdued. With Yang Chen's current level, such a medicinal pill did not take too long. Of course, it was only relatively speaking. Yang Chen was immersed in the alchemy and did not feel the passage of time, but when he completely completed the pill, it was already a month later. There seemed to be only Yang Chen's family left on the Langya crystal ship, and no one else could be seen. Those people had already left one after another when Yang Chen was refining the pills. Even those who re-entered the Langya well had disappeared. Husband, the Langya crystal ship has reached the destination. They have all gone down to look for treasures. Tao Junkie saw that Yang Chen was a little confused and immediately explained, "The Langya crystal ship is a magic treasure for ferrying people. This is the real place where the treasures are hidden." When Yang Chen heard this, he suddenly came to a realization. This was reasonable. Otherwise, a Langya crystal ship that looked like it was only a few miles long, how could there be a place to hide so many people? At first glance, it was obvious that the Langya crystal ship was not a cave abode, but a tool to bring people to the destination. "There's no hurry, let's take it slowly," Yang Chen said as he put the refined medicinal pill into the gourd. "What medicinal pill is this?" "It's actually a grade 2. During this period of time, the dragon spirit had not made a move and was obediently resting. It sounded like it was in better spirits, but it still looked weak. It did not know how many years it had not communicated with others, but when it saw the medicinal pill, it immediately knew that Yang Chen had completed the task, so it immediately spoke quickly. "This smell." Very soon, the dragon spirit discovered the extraordinariness of the medicinal pill. The medicinal pill mixed with the powder of the dragon ball gave it a strange sense of intimacy. Because it was not its own dragon ball, there was a little rejection, which was a very strange feeling. The best material to restore the spirit body was the powder of the spirit body's inner core, but the dragon spirit obviously did not have it. Fortunately, Yang Chen had already considered this problem, and specially used a large amount of merit to quell the rejection that was not from its own dragon ball. As long as it approached the medicinal pill, it could feel its spirit body rapidly becoming stronger. At this time, the dragon spirit could not be bothered to say anything to Yang Chen, and directly used its spirit body to roll up the medicinal pill, and began to absorb the medicinal qi in the medicinal pill from all directions. The damage that the spirit body had suffered previously also began to recover bit by bit. "Let's go and see what good things there are here." While the dragon spirit was slowly recovering, Yang Chen waved to his wives and concubines and said, "What good things are there in the legendary treasures?" Chapter 13:24. The golden glittering scene that he was looking forward to did not appear. On the contrary, when Yang Chen walked out, it was dark and he could not see any scene at all. "The place where the Langya crystal ship took us should be underground. There is no light." Gao Yu's voice came from his side. They had already taken turns to look when they were guarding Yang Chen, and they were very familiar with it. Except for the inside of the Langya crystal ship, it is dark outside. For Yang Chen and others, the darkness didn't affect them too much. Except for the fact that they couldn't see it with their eyes, all other senses were there. As long as they launched their spiritual awareness, they could clearly know the surrounding situation around them, but there were no colors. As soon as he entered the darkness, Yang Chen subconsciously wanted to make some light. This was not intentional, it was purely a subconscious habit. Before he could make a move, he was stopped by Gao Yu next to him. "Don't make a light." Gao Yu's voice sounded next to him. "Those people specialize in attacking places with light, and many people have died." It seemed that a lot of things happened here during the process of Yang Chen's alchemy. Robbing and killing people for treasures was an extremely common scene here. This time, Yang Chen was a little surprised. The people who went out never said this. Of course, they didn't say that someone would take them to the Langya crystal ship to earn spirit stones. It could be seen that some people deliberately concealed it and didn't intend to let people know. In this way, everyone could only rely on their spiritual awareness instead of their eyes to explore the environment here. For Yang Chen, this was a good thing. When everyone could only use their spiritual awareness, he had already reached the 10th stage of the human immortal realm, which absolutely occupied the greatest advantage. Coupled with the sea jasper cup, Yang Chen could even kill anyone silently. This area was very large, and the area that could be explored by his spiritual awareness now was more than a few hundred miles. However, in this area, except for Yang Chen's family, there was no trace of other people. It was estimated that they had gone to a farther place. "Husband, which direction are we going?" Shi Wuxuang's voice came, and she seemed to be a little afraid. After all, she was still a woman. For this kind of deep darkness, she still had an instinctive fear, even if she was already a master of the Deshang stage. "There's no rush. Take your time." Seeing this situation, Yang Chen didn't know what to do. It was unrealistic to wait for his divine sense to explore the surroundings. After thinking about it, he ordered, "Ah Ling, just walk around and explore the way, then you lead the way." The mountain river geographical map could simulate the terrain of hundreds of miles, and naturally, it could let Gong Sunling know which direction to break through. But now it was more important to let the mountain river geographical map form a simulated terrain. Casually put the women in the shuttle, and randomly found a direction. Yang Chen controlled the shuttle to fly at high speed. Along the way, he didn't care about anything else. All he cared about was allowing Gong Sunling to completely simulate the terrain. At the same time, he was waiting for the dragon spirit to recover. As Yang Chen expected, the dragon spirit did not take too long to recover. In just a short 2 days, it had basically recovered to its original state. According to Yang Chen's estimation, this guy's spiritual awareness was at least in the 8th grade of the human immortal realm. This was still the performance in the state of pure spirit body. If the physical body was still there, he didn't know how strong it would be. "It's so comfortable." The dragon spirit made a very comfortable and satisfied groan. There was no longer that feeling of weakness, and sighed, "This feeling of complete relaxation is really memorable." After sighing, the dragon spirit suddenly passed a sentence to Yang Chen, "For the sake of you refining medicinal pills for me, I won't take over your body. You have to find me a physical body and let me take over." In the tone of the dragon spirit, there was no politeness at all. It was full of alms and arrogance that could not be resisted by Yang Chen. "Are you sure you're talking to me?" Yang Chen's tone was not so calm for a while, and it was tit for tat. This guy doesn't seem to have figured out the situation, and he still thinks that he has Yang Chen. Although with the cultivation of his spiritual awareness, according to common sense, it should not be a problem to deal with a small Yuanying stage like Yang Chen. But there are no absolutes in the world, and Yang Chen in front of him was definitely an exception among exceptions. The reason why Yang Chen did not directly fall out with him was that this guy still knew how to be grateful. At least he said that he would not take over Yang Chen's body for the sake of Yang Chen's help in refining medicinal pills for him. From this point of view, it was still worth Yang Chen's time to rescue him. Of course, who else would it be if not you? The dragon spirit did not have the slightest consciousness of asking someone to do something for him, and said naturally, "Okay." Yang Chen agreed, took out the dragon bone flying sword, and threw it into the gourd. "How about this? I am a real dragon, let me possess the dragon bone." What a joke! As soon as the dragon spirit touched the dragon bone flying sword, he immediately understood what it was, and suddenly became angry. "Besides, there is your spiritual awareness imprint on it, it is clearly your magic weapon. Do you want me to be the weapon spirit?" The words of the dragon spirit made Yang Chen's heart move, and he suddenly smiled. It seems to be good to be the weapon spirit. As he said, he had already begun to think about which weapon spirit to let this guy be. Boom! The dragon spirit did not answer Yang Chen's words, but it began to erupt. The spiritual awareness of the 8th grade human immortal was directly raised to the limit, and it hit Yang Chen's spiritual awareness fiercely. This kid doesn't know what's good for him. Does he really think he is a soft persimmon, so easy to bully? If I don't teach him a lesson, he won't know how many eyes I have. To the surprise of the dragon spirit, the full blow of his spiritual awareness did not cause any pain to Yang Chen, and it even seemed that Yang Chen did not feel anything. After receiving such a hit, Yang Chen still looked as if nothing had happened, there was no change. How is this possible? The dragon spirit thought that his spirit body had been restored, and Yang Chen should be vulnerable, but the facts in front of him made him unable to believe it at all. Nothing is impossible, Senior. Yang Chen's words came through the connection of the two people's spiritual awareness, and then there was a hint of ridicule in his voice. Even Senior Jiao doesn't want to possess the body. Could it be that Senior still wants to find a real dragon to possess? That's natural. As soon as these words were passed, the dragon spirit realized that something was wrong. Yang Chen had already said that all the real dragons had ascended, and there were no real dragons left in the world, and his own wish to possess seemed to be in vain. In that case, Senior, take a look, is this appropriate? Yang Chen suddenly smiled and put Xiao Tian into the gourd. At the same time, he did not forget to tell Xiao Tian to give a little lesson to the dragon spirit who still didn't understand the situation, so that he knew who was in charge here. Chapter 13:25. What is this? The dragon spirit was still a little surprised at first, as if it had never seen Xiao Tian before, but the dragon spirit on Xiao Tian's body made the dragon spirit happy immediately, and it rushed straight up without thinking about it. Roar! Of course, Xiao Tian also noticed the action of the dragon spirit, and he roared angrily at the dragon spirit. The jackal's head suddenly showed a kind of joy when it saw its prey, then it opened its big mouth and sucked fiercely. As a Yazi, it usually fed on the spirit. What was the spirit? To put it bluntly, it was a spirit body, but it belonged to the spirit body of the magic weapon. Although the dragon spirit was the true spirit of the true dragon, in essence, it was still not out of this scope. Xiao Tian was very clear about how much benefit the pure dragon spirit would have after being absorbed by him. As soon as Xiao Tian sucked, the dragon spirit flew into Xiao Tian's mouth involuntarily. This time, the dragon spirit was scared out of its wits, and at the same time, it also knew what Xiao Tian was. Even if Xiao Tian's cultivation base was still a lot worse than the dragon spirit, this kind of natural restraint ability could not allow him to challenge it. Don't! The dragon spirit let out a scream of horror, frantically trying to get out of the control of Xiao Tian. Unfortunately, he was just a spirit body. In front of Xiao Tian, it was impossible to get out of the control range of Xiao Tian. Don't you want the body of the true dragon to possess? Yang Chen seemed to be watching a play, and his voice came into the ears of the dragon spirit. Xiao Tian is barely a dragon son, you can make do with it. Don't. The dragon spirit was no longer as haughty and arrogant as before. Apart from saying no in horror, it was unable to say anything else. At the same time as he conveyed this meaning, the dragon spirit was getting closer and closer to Xiao Tian's big mouth. The dragon spirit that spewed out of Xiao Tian's mouth was no longer as kind as it was in the eyes of the dragon spirit. At this moment, it was as terrible as the soul of the dragon spirit. No matter how the dragon spirit screamed in fear, the movement of the body flying toward Xiao Tian's mouth did not stop. Until the dragon spirit was about to enter Xiao Tian's mouth, Xiao Tian could lick off a layer of the dragon spirit's skin. As long as he stuck out his tongue and licked it gently, all the movements stopped. Close to the lips of Yazi, the dragon spirit felt unprecedented fear. The target that seemed very suitable for possession now looked so ferocious and frightening. You want to possess each other, are you ashamed? Yang Chen's teasing words once again came into the ears of the dragon spirit. Killing each other is not exclusive to you humans. Although the dragon spirit was afraid, it also understood that Yang Chen did not have the idea of killing him at the moment, and its tone also calmed down. With a wave of his hand, Xiao Tian was sent back to the dragon palace. Yang Chen once again faced the dragon spirit alone. Tell me, who are you, how are you in the weak water, and what is the matter with the spirit devouring dragon fire? At this time, Yang Chen even omitted the title of senior and junior, and directly used you and me. His spiritual awareness could not shake Yang Chen's spiritual awareness, and he himself was firmly restrained by Xiao Tian. The dragon spirit also understood his current situation. The dragon spirit did not even have the ability to resist, so it could only cooperate obediently. It was like a fish on a chopping block. He didn't want to face Xiao Tian's big mouth again and feel the breath exhaled by Xiao Tian's mouth. I was attacked and lost my physical body. As a last resort, I entered the weak water and used the power of the weak water to nourish my spiritual awareness. The dragon spirit recognized the situation and did not hide anything. He quickly replied, "The spirit-devouring dragon fire is my life source fire seed, but I lost my physical body, and the fire seed began to bite back, causing me to become weaker and weaker. If I hadn't met you, maybe in another 1,000 years, I would have died completely." The dragon spirit's words sounded simple, but there was a lot of information in it. Attacked by someone who attacked him. Daring to attack the true dragon clan, how bold were they? In addition, even in such a weak situation, this guy could still resist the spirit-devouring dragon fire for thousands of years, which was enough to show that this guy was excellent at controlling fire. What the hell is going on with this Langyuel? With this guy, who could barely be regarded as a local snake, Yang Chun certainly had to ask clearly. The sect that attacked me was destroyed by me in anger, but I also lost my physical body. The mountain guarding array of the sect is still working, and it is opened every few hundred years. The dragon spirit said it very lightly, but there was inevitably a kind of pride in its tone. It was indeed worthy of him to be proud that a dragon alone destroyed a sect. The spirit-devouring dragon fire is your life source fire seed, you can't resist it? Yang Chun did not give it a chance to be proud and asked another question. I lost my physical body, and my spirit body is naturally restrained by the spirit-devouring dragon fire. At this point, the dragon spirit really couldn't be proud, and could only say, if it weren't for thousands of guys rushing in every few hundred years, falling into the weak water and being swallowed by the spirit-devouring dragon fire, increasing the fire, I would have already extinguished this fire. The dragon spirit was a little unconvinced, but it probably couldn't bear to really extinguish its own life source fire seed. On one hand, it was its own life source fire seed, on the other hand, it was its own life source fire seed that restrained it. This kind of contradictory feeling was definitely quite uncomfortable. People always thought that the weak water hurt people, even Yang Chun thought so. Only now did they know that it was the spirit-devouring dragon fire that really killed people. This kind of fire seed that burned silently, invisible and colorless, even in the weak water, no one could see it, and no one even dared to casually come down to investigate. If it weren't for the freak Yang Chun, who wanted to collect some weak water before boarding the Langya crystal ship, they would not have discovered the secret at all. The dragon spirit must have also realized that this was a rare opportunity. With the spirit-devouring dragon fire entangled with Yang Chun, it could naturally quietly escape. The only thing it didn't expect was that Yang Chun could actually restrain the spirit-devouring dragon fire, which also made the dragon spirit plan to cooperate with Yang Chun. Before, it was polite to Yang Chun, on the one hand it was grateful, on the other hand it felt that Yang Chun could be used. Good plan. Yang Chun smiled and said, "What are your plans now? However, there is no need to think about possession. Xiao Tian, you don't even need to think about it. There are no true dragons in this mortal world, wait until I ascend." "What else can I do?" The dragon spirit sighed and said very helplessly, "You arrange it." The current situation was simply Yang Chun had the final say. The dragon spirit saw it very clearly, so it was very straightforward, without the slightest bit of unwillingness. "Two choices," Yang Chun said with a smile. "One is to be the sword spirit of my wife's dragon horn flying sword, and the other is to be the spirit of another fire attribute magic weapon. Of course, when I meet a suitable body, I will let you out for possession, you choose for yourself." Chapter 1326. Dragon Horn Flying Sword? The dragon spirit directly exclaimed, "You still have a dragon horn flying sword? How many dragon clan magic weapons do you have? Are you the enemy of the true dragon clan?" It's a long story. Anyway, you know that I have a lot of relationship with the true dragon clan. As he said, Yang Chen took the dragon spirit out of the gourd and threw it into the dragon palace. The abundant spiritual power and familiar aura of the dragon palace made the dragon spirit stunned immediately, and then screamed, "This is the dragon palace. You actually took the dragon palace?" Unfortunately, this is the sea dragon palace. It has the water attribute, otherwise the most suitable is this dragon palace. After discovering the dragon palace, the dragon spirit sighed, and there was a little more regret. In the surprise, the dragon spirit was about to go to the dragon palace to look around. Suddenly, it saw Xiao Tian comfortably soaking in the four seas mysterious coral liquid outside the dragon palace. The fiery enthusiasm was extinguished, and there was no more passion. "I have a lot of Dragon Clan magic weapons, but since you have a life source fire seed, I think it is a fire dragon. There are not many suitable for you." Yang Chen didn't care about the change in the attitude of the dragon spirit before and after, and said directly, "The flying sword refined from the fire dragon horn is suitable for you. What about the fire attribute magic weapon you said?" After listening to Yang Chen's words, the dragon spirit was silent for a while and suddenly asked again, obviously interested in the fire attribute magic weapon that Yang Chen said. Yang Chen didn't know why the dragon spirit was not interested in the fire dragon horn flying sword, but he would not force the dragon spirit to be the sword spirit of the dragon horn flying sword. The melon was not sweet. If it was not the willingness of the dragon spirit, the effect could only be counterproductive. The profound spirit furnace appeared silently in front of the dragon spirit of the dragon palace, and it attracted the attention of the dragon spirit as soon as it appeared. As the dragon spirit of the fire dragon, he immediately found that this alchemy furnace was extraordinary. When he got close and sensed it carefully, he was shocked. This is the aura of a 6th grade fire seed, 5th grade fire seed, 4th grade. After waiting for a careful taste, the tone of the dragon spirit was obviously excited. "In your pill furnace, there are so many fire seeds?" "There are a lot of fire seeds. The only problem is that this is not a magic treasure of the Dragon Clan. It does not have the aura of the Dragon Clan," Yang Chen replied proudly. The profound spirit furnace was the proud work of Yang Chen in this life. From the beginning of a low-grade alchemy furnace to the strongest alchemy furnace in the mortal world, Yang Chen's efforts were not a little bit, and he was naturally proud of it. Now Yang Chen's profound spirit furnace has almost included all the fire seeds below the 6th grade. There are also 2 kinds of 6th grade fire seeds, plus the spirit-devouring dragon fire, a 7th grade fire seed, has surpassed all the alchemy furnaces in the mortal world, and there is no stronger alchemy furnace than the profound spirit furnace. "I choose this." The dragon spirit made a choice almost without hesitation, even without waiting for him to see the dragon horn flying sword. As a fire dragon, in the face of so many fire seeds, including its own life source fire seed, it would never choose the flying sword that was definitely not made from its own dragon horn. The ugly words are said in the front, "You can absorb the medicine chi to grow when I am alchemy, but you also have to do your best to help me alchemy. Otherwise, I don't mind Xiao Tian eating one more senior spiritual awareness." Yang Chen had to say it in the front, lest this guy be dishonest. "You also said that killing each other is not exclusive to humans." This was a real threat. If there was a tool spirit alchemy, it would not be easy to go to the next level. It would be better not to have it. Yang Chen did not have to rely on this dragon spirit, but he subconsciously felt that this guy could get more benefits here. "If you encounter a suitable body after you ascend, you must allow me to seize it and reincarnate." The dragon spirit did not hesitate to put forward its own conditions. "Deal." Yang Chen nodded directly without thinking about it. There was no sloppiness at all. The 2 sides hit it off, and the dragon spirit did not drag and directly went into the profound spirit furnace. Immediately, Yang Chen began the sacrificial refining, letting the dragon spirit and the profound spirit furnace merge. This was a necessary process to increase the tool spirit. The spiritual awareness of the dragon spirit and Yang Chen was too strong. This process did not take too much time and was completed quickly. After it was completed, Yang Chen didn't think about it and directly used the universe treasure raising secret art to sacrificial refine at once. Comfortable. Good guy. When it was completed, the dragon spirit made two sounds of admiration. His voice passed directly to Yang Chen's mind through the profound spirit furnace. One was to praise the feeling that the universe treasure raising secret art gave him, and the other was to the profound spirit furnace itself. If I can have a little dragon essence, plus some of my physical body, this pill furnace will be able to cross the tribulation immediately. Being in the profound spirit furnace and becoming a tool spirit, the profound spirit furnace excitedly controlled each kind of flame and then sighed, "It's a pity. I have some dragon essence." When Yang Chen was in the dragon palace in the Sea of No Return, he absorbed a lot of dragon essence, and now all of it turned into a white dragon in his sea of consciousness. When he collided with the dragon spirit, he knew that it was a dragon scale, so he didn't use it. Now that the dragon spirit said it, Yang Chen immediately used the white dragon qi in his sea of consciousness and explored it into the profound spirit furnace. Feeling this pure dragon essence, the dragon spirit was excited again and almost shouted at Yang Chen, "Quick, quick, I dropped a few dragon scales when I was fighting, I am here, find them back, find them back." Dragon scales? Yang Chen was stunned and then overjoyed. The dragon spirit's own dragon scales must be able to make him more compatible with the profound spirit furnace. In the past, the profound spirit furnace had no tool spirit, so there was no way to cross the tribulation. Now there was such an opportunity. How could Yang Chen miss it? Yang Chen didn't know about the magic weapons tribulation, but in his previous life, Yang Chen only heard about it and never had the opportunity to own such a magic weapon. The life source magic weapon of the average person was just to accompany the master to cross the tribulation. There were very few magic weapons that could cross the tribulation by themselves. But no matter which one he took out, it would be a great thing. The profound spirit furnace, this was the second magic weapon with a tool spirit owned by Yang Chen. The first was of course the Pure Bottle Medicine Garden. The previous Pure Bottle Medicine Garden did not have the ability to cross the tribulation. He didn't know that now a Bai had absorbed the Blood Phantom Vine and the Demonized Vine, and a Zhu had integrated the Immortal Peach. In any case, this was a great thing. The higher the level of the profound spirit furnace, the greater the benefits for Yang Chen, there was no doubt about this. In this case, what he was looking for now, in addition to the pure true fire, there was another addition, which was the dragon scales of the dragon spirit itself. "Where is your dragon scales?" Yang Chen immediately asked. "Languel has been opened so many times, who knows if the dragon scales have been taken away by others?" "It's still here." The dragon scales replied very firmly, "I couldn't feel it before, but now it has fully recovered. It's still here, my feeling will not be wrong." Chapter 13:27. Although the dragon spirit could be sure that his dragon scale was here, the space was too big, tens of thousands of miles, and even he could not determine where it was. If he wanted to find it, Yang Chen had to work hard. After all, the dragon spirit was just a tool spirit. After merging with the profound spirit furnace, it was impossible for the spiritual awareness to pass through the profound spirit furnace. It was certain that the dragon scale was still in this space because of the mysterious connection between the main body and the spiritual awareness, otherwise it was impossible to know. The shuttle has been wandering for a few days. When Yang Chen and the dragon spirit worked together to refine the profound spirit furnace, it was always Gong Sunling who was controlling the shuttle. In these few days, It was enough for Gong's Sunling to turn all the places within tens of thousands of miles. At least the Mountain River geographical map already had a complete simulation of the terrain. The Mountain River geographical map had a small defect, that is, if a formation was arranged in a certain place, then the Mountain River geographical map could not explore the terrain inside the formation and could only show the outline of the edge. Unless she entered the formation, it was impossible to explore the situation inside the formation. Therefore, although Gong's Sunling ran to a lot of places, the places where the sect was entrenched basically did not have a detailed simulation of the terrain. Only Chunyang Palace, which was undefended inside and outside, had a complete terrain. Even all the terrains could be simulated through the Mountain River geographical map. This was the same situation here. In this unknown underground space, there were many places that could not be explored by the Mountain River geographical map. However, this also indirectly showed that those places were worth exploring. In addition to looking for the pure true fire, we also need to find one more thing. After settling the dragon spirit, Yang Chun finally didn't have to take care of him, and concentrated on communicating with his wives and concubines. For the first time, he still added another target to the search. All the women were very curious. What kind of thing were they looking for? It turned out to be said after they came in. When Yang Chun explained the cause and effect, all the women were stunned. Who could have thought that among the murderous Ruoshui there was a dragon spirit hidden, and there was even the existence of the spirit-devouring dragon fire, a 7th-grade fire seed. Just that short experience could be written into a wonderful novel. This was not counting the fact that Yang Chun had subdued the dragon spirit and turned it into the artifact spirit of his alchemy furnace. As long as he collected the dragon scales, he would be able to make the alchemy furnace transcend its tribulation. In this regard, none of the women were as knowledgeable as Yang Chun. Even Tao Junkie of the Taishanmen was the same. He had heard of Dharma treasures undergoing tribulation, but he had never heard of the conditions for Dharma treasures to undergo tribulation, let alone seen one. If they could really succeed, it would be enough to increase their understanding of cultivation to the next level. In fact, very few magic weapons in the mortal world can do this. Just like Yang Chun refined so many medicinal pills, only the heaven-seizing pill has the experience of crossing the tribulation. Without an artifact spirit and without refining the magic treasure to a certain level, it was simply impossible to have a chance. The matter of the dragon spirit was just a small interlude. The real purpose of coming here was to find the pure true fire. At most, he had one more goal, which was to find the dragon scales. The other things did not change much. Of course, there was another purpose for Yang Chun to bring his family here, which was to quietly cultivate here, ignore the discord between the sect, and quietly wait for the arrival of the Taishanmen's misfortune. Take whatever you want. If others want to fight for it, then fight for it. Everything here is ownerless. Those who are fated will have it. There is no need to be afraid of anything. His main purpose was to find the pure true fire, but if he met someone else who liked it, he did not have to give in. This was the principle set by Yang Chun for the women. Then, the family began to explore the array one by one. Most of the people who came in had the same idea, especially the few guys who boarded the ship with their people. They were even more familiar with the path. The good stuff here wasn't something that could be taken away at once. Instead, no one knew when one or a few of them would suddenly appear. This was also the reason why there were still people scrambling for the Langya well even though it had been opened countless times over the years. With Gong's Sunling leading the way, they began to search the array with the relatively medium strength. The weakest array would not have any good things in it that would tempt the women. There were people studying every array around it. Everyone had the same thought. As long as they could break open an array, they would be able to get at least one good thing. This was the consensus. Before seeing real gold and silver, everyone was still able to maintain a certain degree of restraint. Who knew if there was anything good inside? The first person to enter might not necessarily be able to find it. Didn't they see that any random formation was so big, with a radius of at least a few kilometers? The treasures still had to wait for the fated one. For so many years, no one had discovered that there was pure true fire here. Yang Chen's plan to find it by relying on the aura of the fire seed was ruined. This was not something that could be found easily, so Yang Chen could only search one by one. Arrays were Gong Sunling's strong point, so the task of breaking the array was left to Gong Sunling. Sometimes, Yang Chen only gave Gong Sunling suggestions for her to refer to, but he never took the initiative to break the array. Although the Murong sisters used arrays in battle, they were more inclined towards the 5 elements array, so they did not dabble much. Occasionally they could only give suggestions, but not take the lead. The other women also knew that they were not very good at arrays, so they waited quietly and enjoyed the process of searching. Yang Chen had already said that entering the Langya Well was also a good place to hone everyone's temperament and cultivation. Everyone was an expert, so they naturally understood this principle and would not waste a single moment. In front of the first array, Gong Sunling did not spend too much time. In less than 10 days, she successfully broke the array. The moment the array was broken, a group of people who had been waiting at the side with covetous eyes rushed in. They did not care who broke the array. In their hearts, it did not matter who broke the array. What mattered was whether they could be the first to rush in and find what was inside. Yang Chen's family was not that anxious. Whether it was the dragon's scale or the pure true fire, they were not things that could be obtained by entering first. They watched as the group of people rushed into the array one after another. After waiting for a while, they slowly walked in. As soon as they entered the array, Yang Chen heard the sounds of fighting before he could see anyone. These people were really a group of cheap people. They probably did not know what good things were inside, but they were already so eager to fight. It was unknown which person's hand was so cheap, but when he saw a group of people suddenly enter, he immediately waved his sword at them. This time, it was like poking a hornet's nest. The women had long been dissatisfied with these people, but they did not pay attention to them for the time being. Now, they actually dared to bully them. If this could be tolerated, what could not? Chapter 1328. Gao Yu Gong Sunling and the other 4 wives did not make a move, it was Tao Junqi who made a move. Since discovering that Gao Yu and the others had experienced the experience of the demon continent and were very powerful, they felt that they were faintly at a disadvantage. They were obviously masters of the Deshang stage, but they were suppressed by the 4 wives of the Yuanying stage, which made them very uncomfortable. Therefore, with such a fighting opportunity, they had already said that they would leave it to them. Gao Yu Gong Sunling and the other 4 women only needed to take care of their husband with peace of mind. The fighting in the demon continent, coupled with the experience of the mortal world in the following 100 years, Gao Yu Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue were very open to some things. They were not afraid of anyone, This kind of small scene, there was no need for so many people to make a move, it was not necessary to lift up those guys who didn't know what was good for them. 7 girls made a move, even without releasing the iron-winged eagle, the people inside could not stand it anymore. This was the location of a medium difficulty formation. The real masters could be concentrated on the side of the high-level formation. Few of the people left here could compete with 7 girls. After dealing with more than a dozen guys in one shot, no one dared to provoke 7 girls easily. With a hula sound, they all ran away. The enemy fled, and 7 girls had no intention of chasing. They came in to find things, not to kill people. In such a short time, Gong Sunling had already simulated the terrain in the area protected by the formation, and several doubtful points were also directly marked. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness swept those places in an instant, and after the exploration, he shook his head directly. It was just a few magic weapons. For him, except for exchanging some poor spirit stones, there was no other value. Without looking at those things, Yang Chen turned and left. As soon as he left, the women naturally followed. After the whole family left, a few brave fellows who were still unwilling to give up and wandered around the area quickly ran back. After a while, 4 or 5 of them left in high spirit. After that, this place was visited by a few groups of people, and no one else came to take a look. After a few months of searching through dozens of arrays, Yang Chen and the rest were still unable to find anything related to the pure Yin true fire and the dragon scale. Every time they saw some dispensable things, there were only a few things that the women could take a fancy to, and they put them away, and the rest were left untouched in place. Although he knew that searching for pure Yin true fire and dragon scales in this vast area was like searching for a needle in a haystack, aimlessly searching for them one by one was indeed very frustrating. Let's see where those fellows who re-entered Langyuel are. Sighing, Yang Chen finally gave up on this kind of clueless search. Perhaps finding someone familiar with this place to lead the way was the right way. Of course, when it comes to familiarity with this place, except for those who entered Langyuel for the second time, who else could it be? The women have actually been paying attention to the whereabouts of those fellows. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling had even secretly left a spiritual awareness imprint on those fellows. Don't look at those masters of the Deshang stage, with their current second-grade human immortal spiritual awareness cultivation base. It was easy to keep an eye on those fellows without being noticed. Yang Chen made a decision, then the next thing everyone had to do was to find those fellows. Several people were very far apart, and Yang Chen didn't want to listen to only one side of the story, so he decided to find everyone and then inquire about it. With Gong Sunling and the shuttle, it was not difficult to find each of them. This fellow Taoist, I am Yang Chen, I would like to ask you about something, ask for directions, please enlighten me. Every time he found one, Yang Chen said the same words, just a thank you gift, a 6 desires pill, it's not enough to show my respect. As soon as they met, Yang Chen's rich and imposing spirit was fully realized. A 6 desires pill was offered as a thank you gift, and his tone and attitude were all taken out to ask for advice. His attitude was full of sincerity, no matter who it was, there was no reason to refuse. They could take a person to board the Langya crystal ship for 50 gene of upper-grade spirit stones. Of course, they would not push the 6 desires pill, the best quality pill that had been hyped outside. To put it bluntly, after entering Langyuel, it was unknown whether they could find something better than the 6 desires pill. This was also Yang Chen, who could be so generous. If it was someone else, if they dared to say that they would give a 6 desires pill to others for asking for directions, they would be regarded as a liar and then beaten until even their own mother couldn't recognize them. Grandmaster Yang, please instruct me, I will tell you everything I know. After getting the 6 desires pill and confirming that they were not dreaming, all of them had the same attitude. As for Yang Chen gathering everyone together to ask questions, no one had any objections. Everyone understood that this was because Yang Chen was afraid that one of them would lie to him, so everyone gathered together to confront him. When everyone was gathered, Yang Chen let his 7 concubines guard the periphery and set up a few soundproof arrays before he began to ask questions. When I entered the Langyuel, I just wanted to find one thing. Several fellow Taoists are familiar with this place. I don't know if you have seen the pure Yin true fire? Yang Chen did not hide it, and directly told these guides his purpose. Of course, the dragon's scale was definitely concealed and only said the pure Yin true fire. Yang Chen liked to collect fire seeds for alchemy, which was also famous outside, just like Yang Chen liked to collect miscellaneous books. No one would doubt the things that were famous outside. Moreover, the pure Yin true fire was a 7th grade fire seed. Not everyone could get their hands on it. Even a pure Deshang stage fire cultivator would not necessarily dare to touch it. If they knew the whereabouts of such a thing, what was the harm in telling Yang Chen and getting a lot of gift? A total of 7 people, when they heard that Yang Chen was looking for the pure Yin true fire, all frowned. In the dark underground, Yang Chun couldn't see their expressions, but he could detect the hesitation on their faces at the moment through his spiritual awareness. I don't want to hide it from Grandmaster Yang, although I have entered Languel once, I have never heard of the pure and true fire in Languel. Someone immediately said what he knew. Several others nodded when they heard the words, as if they had never heard of it. Grandmaster, is there a mistake in the information? After a clever question, he immediately realized that something was wrong and hurriedly said, in my experience, if it is not that there is no pure and true fire here, then there is only one possibility. What possibility? When Yang Chun heard it, he found that this guy seemed to have something in his words. Maybe he really knew something, so he asked hurriedly. Chapter 1329. Perhaps the fire seed is in those few places that have never been opened before. The person who answered did not keep them in suspense and directly stated his guess. When he said this, the others immediately reacted and nodded. Not every place in the Languel had been searched. There were a few places that the explorers had not been able to enter. Since the outsiders had not heard of it, maybe it was in one of those places. When he heard this, Yang Chun immediately became spirited. If there was such a place that no one had entered, then it was very likely that there was pure and true fire that no one had heard of. Before Yang Chun could ask, Sun Qingxue had already asked anxiously on behalf of Yang Chun. The others also listened attentively and waited for these people to answer. Grandmaster Yang, you don't know. It was still the expert who first voiced out his guess who said, in this Languel, there are 3 great danger zones. Since it was called a danger zone, then there was no need to ask, there must be great danger, otherwise it would not be called a danger zone. All the girls pricked up their ears and listened carefully, for fear of missing a single word. Every time people who entered Languel and survived, after more than 10 years, basically all the formations that could be cracked have been found, they would all gather in the 3 great danger zones. One person was mainly describing, the others were responsible for supplementing, and the scene of the 3 great danger zones began to be told to Yang Chen's family. The reason why it was called a danger zone was that many people had died in these 3 places. It was fine if people died in there, but the problem was that tens of thousands of people had died outside the 3 great danger zones, and no one had been able to enter. No one knew what was in the danger zone, they only knew that it was definitely something good. However, the 3 formations outside the danger zone were not something that anyone could crack. Ever since the legend of Languel, the danger zones were still danger zones, no matter how many waves of people came in. The 3 great danger zones were recognized, and basically, people who could survive in Languel would eventually gather near these 3 danger zones, wanting to try their luck. Of course, there were a lot of people who did not believe in the heresy, and the end result was their own death, and then became a failure example to others. Everyone wanted to know what was inside Terminus. Everyone wanted to take it for themselves, but no one succeeded. A smart person would just watch and not make a move, but a fool would be consigned to eternal damnation. It was that simple outside of the danger zone. In fact, everyone understood that this danger zone only had 3 powerful defensive arrays, and so far, no one had managed to break them. The danger zones were actually not a secret. As long as everyone finished searching the outer areas, their attention would be focused on the 3 great danger zones. It would only take a dozen years or so. With this information, each of them would earn a 6 desires pill. It was definitely worth it. All 7 of them said the same thing, so there shouldn't be any fake news. Yang Chun politely sent the 7 of them off. Then, he discussed with his wives and concubines whether they should go and take a look. Over there, we can only watch. We can't do anything. Gao Yu hurriedly made 3 rules first. Since it was called a dangerous place, it must not be so simple. Once she acted easily, there might be big trouble. Gao Yu knew the character of her husband and disciple. When they reached the place, he might take risk. So, she informed him in advance to avoid any accident. Of course, Yang Chen agreed. He was not a reckless person and would not put himself in danger. But he was a little curious. What kind of array could block the footsteps of so many treasure hunters? To put it bluntly, these treasure hunters were sometimes the real experts in certain areas. Their attainments were not something that the experts of the big sect could compare to. Even they were stumped, so the difficulty could be imagined. The first place they rushed to should be a cave. The reason why it should be was because everyone actually did not know what was inside. The thing that blocked everyone's way was a stone door at the foot of the mountain. The entire mountain was under a restriction, so one could only enter and exit through this stone door. This was one of the 3 great danger zones, the Longhuan Cave. It was also the least dangerous of the 3 great danger zones. But even so, there were still many corpses around the Longhuan Cave. Some had already decomposed into powder. With a light touch, it would turn into a pile. There were a few fresh corpses beside the stone door of the cave. These were guys who did not know the power of the Longhuan Cave and rashly went up to open the door. There seemed to be an expression of fear on the face of each corpse. Obviously, they felt great terror before they died. According to the guesses of the 7 guides and the legends of the predecessors, this stone door could not be opened at all. When cultivators touched it and used their spiritual power, the spiritual power of their whole body would be absorbed by the stone door. If they did not use their spiritual power, it would be fine. But if cultivators did not use their spiritual power, how could they open such a big stone door? Try using a puppet. Yang Chun originally wanted to try it himself, but he was stopped by Gao Yu. Then, she came up with a compromise. Gao Yu, Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingshu all had a puppet made from the corpse of a praying mantis. It was the safest way to test it. Sure enough, as the rumors said, as soon as Shi Shanshan's puppet used spiritual power, it was as if the whole body was sucked by the stone door. If Yang Chun did not see the situation was bad and directly destroyed the puppet, maybe Shi Shanshan would also be implicated. And Gong Sunling's puppet did not use spiritual power. After touching it for a long time, nothing happened. It seems to be a powerful spiritual absorption array. Yang Chun also had a plan in his heart. After pondering for a while, he suddenly smiled. There is a way. What way? The eyes of the women all lit up. Although they could not see clearly in the dark, everyone could feel the excitement of their companions. The danger zone that had troubled countless people for generations, in the hands of their husband, there was a way to solve it. Of course, they were proud and happy. There are 2 ways. Yang Chun replied with a smile. Since it is a spiritual absorption array, as long as it is an array, there will be a limit. With a lot of spiritual power for the array to absorb, there will always be a time when it can't absorb it. However, this method consumes too much. If it is measured in spirit stones, it will be a massive number. It is a bit not worth the loss. This truth was understood by all the women, but no one would really use this method to break the array. As Yang Chun said, the consumption was too great. Don't look at so many masters of the Deshang stage have died here. That could not be measured by a few pounds of spirit stones. At least 10,000 pounds of top-quality spirit stones had to be used to speak. Is there another way? Sun Qingshu immediately asked about another way. In fact, it's simple to say, but many people are stuck in a dead end and can't think of it. Yang Chun said with a smile, Don't use spiritual power, use tools, use brute force to open this stone door. Chapter 1330. People who cultivate sometimes do not think about some things. When they are superstitious about spiritual power all their lives, they will subconsciously think that without spiritual power, they can't do anything. Yang Chen is different. Gao Yugong Sunling Shi Shanshan Sun Qingxue is also different. They have all experienced the process of their cultivation being sealed and living like ordinary people for 100 years. In this regard, they have a more understanding than other cultivators. Those ordinary people who have no spiritual power, what will they do when they encounter a stone or wood that they can't move? In fact, there are still many ways. The simplest is to use tools like levers, completely relying on physical strength to support the weight that they can't bear. This stone door is the same, they can't use spiritual power. In the eyes of ordinary people, it is to find various ways to achieve the goal, but in the eyes of cultivators, it becomes another way of thinking. First of all, everyone's first thought was to break the formation first. As long as the formation was broken, there would be no such problem. Of course, this idea is also normal. The other party has arranged the formation, and they can crack it themselves. Come and go, it's upright. The second thought is that if you can't break the formation, what method to use to attack the formation? Or try your luck with various magic weapons. The lying and decaying corpses at the door are the victims of this idea. No cultivator has ever thought of using ordinary people's methods to solve the problem. The masters of the Yuanying and Desheng stage are all hundreds of years old. In the years of cultivation, they have forgotten that they used to be ordinary people, and they can still use ordinary people's methods. When Yang Chen said this, the women suddenly had a feeling of enlightenment. If they want to solve this problem, there are two ways to solve it casually. The first method is a bit costly, but it can be said that it can be solved. The second method of ordinary people made the women a little ashamed. None of them had thought of it. It was like there was no concept in their minds at all. Of course, it's not so complicated for your husband. After Yang Chen waited for everyone to think about it, he added with a smile, if this stone door is not as heavy as the mountain behind it, it is just a piece of cake. Except for Gong Sunling, no one else seemed to understand what Yang Chen meant. Gao Yu vaguely guessed something, but she was not sure if Yang Chen meant this. As he spoke, Yang Chen's hands had already grabbed the two huge handles of the stone door. He didn't know what material the handle was made of, but it looked very sturdy, as if it was made for people to hold it and push the door open. The women were very clear in their hearts that there would be no problem if they didn't use their spiritual power, but they were still a little worried when they saw this scene. They were afraid of disturbing Yang Chen. No one dared to speak loudly and just looked at Yang Chen nervously. Yang Chen casually exerted force and pushed inwards, but the two stone doors did not budge at all. This made Yang Chen a little surprised. He didn't seem to have exerted much force, but he had already cultivated the yellow-turbaned strongman body refining technique to the realm of overturning the sea strength. He had at least tens of thousands of genes of power. He didn't even push the stone door. This stone door was still a bit interesting. After a careful observation, the stone door has not been opened for at least 10,000 years. There was nothing on the door, but Yang Chen still carefully discovered that on the edge of the stone door, there were some subtle traces that almost no one would notice. These traces were actually vertical. What did vertical traces mean? Yang Chen thought a little in his heart and immediately smiled on his face. This was clearly the scratch left by the stone door moving up and down. The designer of this place was really a sinister guy. He set up two seemingly ordinary stone doors. Everyone thought that it was opened from the inside to the outside. No one would ever think that the stone door was opened from the top to the bottom. He grabbed the two handles with both hands and lifted them up. In the rumbling sound, the two stone doors began to slowly leave the ground and move up. Because it had not been opened for a long time, the friction when the stone door was lifted up was very big and it seemed very rough. But under the terrifying power of Yang Chen, the stone door still rose up unswervingly, revealing the passage below. The 7 concubines were shocked to find out that their husband had such terrifying power. Gao Yu finally confirmed her guess. Yang Chen really lifted it with his own strength. When they were in retreat together, Gao Yu had seen Yang Chen waving a huge stone pillar of hundreds of thousands of genes to play tricks. At this moment she was not so surprised. Gong Sunling had seen the scene of Yang Chen pulling up the island and smashing it at Ho Yun, so she was not surprised. The other women were all surprised and speechless. What kind of monster was their husband? Not to mention his level of alchemy, how could even his physical body be so terrifying? No wonder all the women under the bed were sometimes not the opponents of Yang Chun, but it turned out that his pure physical body was so shocking. Fortunately, everyone's state of mind was good. Although they were surprised, it was only for a while. The business was more important. Her husband had already lifted the entire stone door. If they did not go in and take a look, wouldn't it be a waste of her husband's hard work? Tao Junkie's cultivation was the highest, so she took the lead and was about to drill under Yang Chen's arm and rush in. Yang Chen reminded her in time, "Be careful." Tao Junkie understood and summoned the iron-winged eagle. She took the flying sword and lowered her head to go in. Yang Chen only lifted the stone door to his chest, and Tao Junkie had to bend down to go in. Next was Gong Sunling. She had the mountain river geographical map to protect her body, and she could cover for Tao Junkie when necessary. The rest bypassed Yang Chen one by one and entered the long tunnel under the stone door. Gao Yu was the last in line. After the other women went in, she stared at a few directions in the distance, exchanged a look with Yang Chen, and walked in calmly. Now Yang Chen had lifted the stone door above his head, and he could walk in easily. In several directions that Gao Yu looked at, there were people staring at this side in shock. At least 3 of them were the guides who entered Langyuel for the second time and asked Yang Chen for directions. At this moment, they couldn't believe what they saw with their eyes. One of the 3 dangerous places in Langyuel was so easily solved by Yang Chen. Why did it feel like watching a show? The women had already walked in a long way. Yang Chen held the bottom of the stone door with his hand, maintained the lifting posture, and moved into the stone door step by step. However, in the eyes of a few people who were staring at this side, the stone door maintained the height of being lifted and never fell. This situation made a few people overjoyed. Could it be that after the stone door was opened, it would always be open? Chapter 1331. When Yang Chen and the women walked into the tunnel, they found that the tunnel was quite speechless. The seemingly very ordinary stone door was more than 100 feet thick, which also meant that the top of the tunnel was more than 100 feet long, all of which were the 2 so-called stone doors. No wonder it couldn't be pushed inside. The stone door in this direction was simply connected with the mountain. It would be a ghost to be able to push it. In order to walk in himself, Yang Chen had to keep holding it, step by step, and never let the stone door fall. This scene naturally caused a lot of speculation from the people outside. Seeing that the stone door did not fall for at least a dozen breaths, the people outside finally couldn't help but rush towards the stone door from several directions. The fastest one, when he reached the stone door, did not hesitate to enter the stone door. Gao Yu's last glance had obviously found everyone. Because they were afraid of disturbing Yang Chen's family inside, no one dared to use their spiritual awareness to explore. The guy who rushed in was very happy. Even if Yang Chen's family ate the meat, he could drink some soup. You know, these 3 great danger zones have never been opened. How many good things are there in it? Before the second expert could rush to the side of the door, the raised stone door suddenly came crashing down. Don't look at the difficulty of lifting it. But when it fell, the huge weight ignored all obstacles, and the pressure of Mount Tai was like the top of the mountain. The master who rushed into the stone door was horrified. Rushing forward was obviously too late, and he was unwilling to step back. In such a hesitation, the stone door had already pressed down on the top of his head. As a last resort, the master could only hold up his hands and learn from Yang Chen's appearance, trying to resist the falling trend of the stone door. Unfortunately, it was easy to see others sitting up, but it was not so simple when it came to lifting himself. The huge weight almost bent the master's spine. In a flash, he already understood that relying on his own physical strength, it was impossible to carry this stone door. But as soon as he used his spiritual power, he suddenly found that the place where his hands and the stone door were in contact, there was a great suction force, and his spiritual power was washed away. This stone door couldn't be used with spiritual power. The expert suddenly remembered this taboo, but it was already too late. The falling momentum of the stone door didn't even slow down for a moment before crashing down. 2 lines of blood were squeezed out from both ends of the stone door. It was that pitiful fellow who was directly crushed into a meat patty by the stone door. Fresh blood splattered all over the body of the expert who rushed over from behind, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, his speed was a little slower. Otherwise, wouldn't he have ended up as a meat patty? Of course, Yang Chen had also sensed that this fellow had followed him in, but he was not so kind as to carry the stone door for an outsider. Once he was inside, he let go without thinking. These guys couldn't think of a way themselves, but they were good at taking advantage of others. He would let them know that it wasn't so easy to take advantage of others. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere, but it had nothing to do with Yang Chen. Not even a speck of blood was on his body. He only wanted to know if there was anything he was looking for in one of the 3 great danger zones. It seemed that the array outside and the stone door was the last barrier. There wasn't the slightest bit of other aura inside. Tao Junkie, who rushed in first, had already checked once. There was no danger. Even the lights were lit, illuminating the inside of the place. The space inside was not big. It was only half the size of the mountain belly. The whole space was a circular area, supported by a few pillars. With just one look, Yang Chen felt a little regret. In the middle of the circular space was a hall. Surrounding it was a circle of tables. On the tables there were many memorial tablets. There were also some portraits on the wall. One by one, they almost covered the entire wall. There were some praying mats on the ground in the middle. Whether it was the praying mats or the tables, they had gone through simple refinement. Until now, they still hadn't decayed. This posture was clearly the appearance of a sex ancestral hall. No wonder there was such a strange array protecting the outside. Which sex ancestral hall would be heavily guarded and could not be easily opened. Opening one of the great danger zones was a good thing. But for Yang Chen and the rest, it didn't have much meaning. No one would keep any magic treasures in the ancestral hall. This trip was a waste of effort. The girls probably also knew this result. Everyone just looked at it. No one did anything. Now they were waiting for Yang Chen to decide what to do next. In any case, he is also a senior. Since he is here, let's burn some incense. Yang Chen thought for a while and said to the girls. This was the old place of a certain sect. Coming here to take things and arriving at the ancestral hall, it was proper to burn incense for the ancestors. No one objected. Yang Chen was the first. The girls followed behind Yang Chen. Gao Yu, Gong Sunling, Shi Shanshan, and Sun Qingxue were in the second row. Tao Junkie, Murong sisters, and Shi Wushuang were in the third row. Starting from the position directly opposite the door, they started to burn incense one by one. There were ready-made incense in the Qiankuan bag. In a short while, there were 3 lit incense sticks in front of each memorial tablet in the entire ancestral hall. Smoke rose in spirals, and the ancestral hall began to be filled with a smell that made people feel refreshed. What is that? At first, the smoke was just drifting randomly. But when there were 3 incense sticks in front of all the memorial tablets, the drifting smoke began to slowly form a pattern at the top of the ancestral hall. This pattern was square. It was impossible to form by chance. Although it had not completely appeared, there was definitely something strange about it. Everyone looked up at the smoke slowly gathering. There was an indescribable feeling in everyone's heart. Originally, they thought that there would not be any gains in the ancestral hall. They did not expect that after a few incense sticks, there would be such a surprise. Fortunately, Yang Chen suggested to burn incense. Otherwise, no one would discover that the smoke would form a pattern. The smoke quickly formed a square pattern. There were all kinds of complicated lines which made people feel dizzy at a glance. Especially when the smoke was constantly moving, it was even more dizzying. It seems to be an array pattern. Gong Sunling was the first to see something, followed by the Murong sisters. They were more inclined towards arrays, so it was normal for them to see it first. Yang Chen did not analyze what the pattern was. Instead, he tried his best to memorize the pattern. As for studying it, he would think about it later. The smoke did not last for long and soon dissipated. The girls looked at it with some longing, especially Gong Sunling and the Murong sisters. They only remembered a part of it. Most of it dissipated before they could memorize it. Burn the incense again and look at it again, Gong Sunling immediately suggested. No need. I have already memorized it. Let's go out and study it. Yang Chen shook his head. Instinctively, he felt that this ancestral hall was not so simple. It was better to leave first. Chapter 1332. In general, the sect would not set up any killing traps in the ancestral hall. Those who came on weekdays were the disciples or guests of the ancestral hall. It was really unnecessary and should not target these people. But no one could guarantee that this sect would not take precautions, so when he felt something was wrong, Yang Chen still planned to leave first. Yang Chen's words were the golden rule in the ears of the women. When Yang Chen said to leave, no one would stay for a moment. This was proved by Yang Chen with the dignity of her husband and the facts again and again. No one had any opinions. Just like coming in, Yang Chen lifted the stone door, and the women quickly went out. Yang Chen was the last one to hold the stone door and walked out slowly. The stone door was stained with the flesh and blood of the master who had just been crushed into meat juice, but at this time, he couldn't care less. Safety came first. Of course, although the Qiankuan bag on his body was flattened, it was not broken, and it directly benefited Yang Chen. However, before Yang Chen walked to the outside door, he noticed that someone was confronting the women outside. When Yang Chen quickly walked to the door, those people were still there. He had seen these people a few times. There were more than a dozen of them. 2 of them were acquaintances that Yang Chen had asked for directions, and the others were the people who boarded the Langya crystal ship together. At this moment, the women were looking at these people covetously, and they were on guard. As soon as the women came out, they met these people. If it weren't for each of them raising their hands and making a sound to show that they were not malicious, the women would have already made a move. No one knew who made the light, but it was bright here, and everyone could see the surrounding scene clearly. It was also because those people didn't want to make a move that Yang Chen didn't turn hostile. Grandmaster Yang, please do us a favor. We just want to go in and take a look and try our luck. There is no other intention. An acquaintance guide saw Yang Chen and immediately came forward to ask, Grandmaster Yang, if you have any errands in the future, we will be at your service. He showed his sincerity as soon as he came up. He probably knew that the things they had couldn't arouse Yang Chen's interest, so he made such a promise. Speaking of which, they were very sincere. To pay such a price just to enter and have a look, it could not be said that it was not a small price. However, these people didn't necessarily lose out. This Languel was just so strange. Sometimes, the people in front clearly didn't find anything, but when the people behind went over to take a look, they didn't know when there were more treasures. It was purely dependent on each person's fate. What they said made sense. As one of the 3 great danger zones, it was even more coveted. No matter what Yang Chen obtained in there might be some fish that escaped the net. This was what everyone had in mind, but they did not have the ability to lift the stone door, so they could only discuss it with Yang Chen. 5 kilograms of top-grade spirit stones. There's no need to talk about what will happen in the future. Yang Chen didn't like their empty promises. In the end, he still vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what exactly was wrong. Since these people wanted to go in, who knew if there would be a future, it was better to trade real money on the spot. Everyone was overjoyed. Originally, they thought that they would owe Yang Chen a promise, but now it was only 5 kilograms of top-grade spirit stones. They were all masters, and no one said anything. Everyone took out 5 kilograms of top-grade spirit stones without hesitation, and then under the signal of Yang Chen, handed them over to Gao Yu. Everyone handed over the spirit stones, and then looked at Yang Chen eagerly, waiting for his order. Yang Chen didn't let everyone down. He held the stone door with one hand and quickly ordered, "Immediately prepare a few strong metal pillars to hold it." The group of people suddenly understood that no matter how great a person's strength was, there would be a time when it would be exhausted. If they used a bunch of pillars to hold it, there would be no problem in this aspect at all. Especially after holding the stone door, they didn't have to worry about the trouble of not letting go of Yang Chen after they went in. No one dared to neglect. Everyone carried a lot of ordinary metal materials with them. At this time, they couldn't care about anything else. They immediately took them out and began to sacrificial refine on the spot. It was just holding the stone door. There was no need to carefully refine it, as long as everyone's size was the same. Soon, there were more than a dozen metal pillars in front of Yang Chen. "Little Shui, come over and help hold it, and then I will let go." Yang Chen directly instructed Sun Qingxue to collect all the metal pillars, and then entered the door, putting one every few steps. After all of them were put in place, Sun Qingxue left, and Yang Chen also let go. The stone door sank down, and then fell on a dozen metal pillars, and was firmly supported. "Good luck." Yang Chen cupped his hands at everyone, and then took his wives and concubines and left quickly. The uneasy atmosphere just now was getting stronger and stronger. Yang Chen now didn't want to stay here for a long time. The departure of Yang Chen's family was in line with everyone's wishes. At this moment, facing the open stone door, inside was one of the 3 great danger zones, but more than a dozen of them began to be wary of each other again. There was no way people's hearts were like this. Without the relationship between Yang Chen and the women, it was impossible to really cooperate. After arguing for a long time, it was the guide who had just negotiated with Yang Chen who said, "We can't use spiritual power inside the stone door, so what are we worried about? No one can break these pillars by relying on physical strength, so there is no need to think so much, let's go in together." Sometimes many people just can't get rid of that feeling. Someone said so, everyone thought about it, and it was indeed reasonable. In that case, what were they waiting for? No one wanted to be left behind. Everyone swarmed in. After squeezing 4 or 5 times at the small entrance, more than a dozen people entered one after another. "Let's divide those crystal stones and use them as pocket money." Yang Chen's family was already 100 miles away at the moment, and Yang Chen's sense of crisis had disappeared. Only then did he stop and began to talk to the women about the distribution of those crystal stones. More than a dozen people each had 10 jin of the best grade spirit stones, and it was divided to each of them, which was a lot of wealth in any sect. Unfortunately, now the women had already been shocked by Yang Chen's wealth many times, and they were also people who had seen big scenes. Who would put such a little crystal stone in their eyes? What everyone was interested in was why Yang Chen had to leave in a hurry, and what the pattern meant. "Why are we in such a hurry? Are we afraid that they will find nothing when they go in and look for us?" Sun Qingxue didn't think so much, and asked Yang Chen directly. Of course, the latter sentence was a joke. Yang Chen didn't promise that there would be anything inside. "I always feel that something is wrong." Yang Chen shook his head directly and said. Just as he said this, he heard a thunderous noise in the direction of the ancestral hall just now, and at the same time, a dazzling red light broke out, and the entire dark space was instantly illuminated into a blood color. Chapter 1333. After the sound and light lasted for a while, a fierce wind came from that direction. The wind was mixed with a very frightening aura. It blew continuously for the time it took to burn half an incense stick before it stopped. With the help of the red light just now, when Yang Chen and his family looked in the direction of the ancestral hall, the mountain had disappeared. Although they had already left 100 miles away, they should still be able to see such a high mountain. But at this time, it seemed that there was nothing there. Needless to say, everyone understood that something must have happened in the ancestral hall, otherwise there would not be such a movement. Just by looking at the fierce wind just now, they knew that the dozen masters were already in danger. Even Tao Junkie was deeply afraid of the aura in the wind, and it was still 100 miles away. If it happened at the scene, how terrifying would it be? Let's go. After Yang Chen raised his head and looked in that direction for a while, he said to the girls, and then everyone went on their way. Husband, how did you know that something would happen there? It was still Sun Qingxue with a face full of curiosity. Although everyone's mood was a little heavy when they saw the scene just now, she still asked unwillingly. In fact, all the girls had the same question, but they just didn't know how to ask. If the ancestral hall of a sect is destroyed, it means that the sect is really exterminated. Yang Chen shook his head and said this, then explained. Those people who went in were definitely not as well behaved as us. I think that there must be some powerful prohibition in the ancestral hall. As long as the portraits of the ancestral tablets are destroyed, the jade and stone will be destroyed together. Everyone understood the reason, but when they thought that their family had just come out of that place, they felt a burst of fear. Fortunately, Yang Chen said at that time that he only said to burn incense for the portraits of the ancestral tablets, and did not do anything else. Otherwise, it would be their family that was destroyed by the prohibition. In addition to the fear, everyone was also a little excited. When others went in, they triggered the prohibition, but when their family went in, they saw a secret map. This was the difference. What was fortune? This was it. The commotion over there was so big that almost everyone in the space had seen it. He believed that a large group of people would soon gather there. Other than the 2 guides who had died there should be at least a few people who knew that it was one of the 3 great danger zones. If they thought about it again, it would be easy for them to guess that it was Yang Chen and the others. Even if it wasn't done by Yang Chen, it was definitely related to Yang Chen's family. Let's go to the next dangerous place. Sooner or later, someone will come to the door. Yang Chen did not neglect. The shuttle immediately found the right direction, flying to the second danger zone. Yang Chen had memorized the secret map in his mind. At this moment, he had already imprinted it on a few jade slip. Gong Sunling and the Murong sisters each had a jade slip and were studying it. Now, everyone could confirm that it was an array diagram, but they didn't know what kind of array diagram it was. They needed to study it further. Along the way, Yang Chen covered the whereabouts of the shuttle with the sea-pouring jasper cup and flew quietly towards the destination. Sure enough, as Yang Chen expected, countless people were disturbed by the movement on the side of the ancestral hall and gathered in that direction. Just within 100 feet of the shuttle, there were 4 people along the way. And this was only the closest ones. There were countless figures in other directions. The second danger zone was also a mountain, but relatively speaking, it could only be called a small hill, and it could not be compared with the mountain of the ancestral hall. It was bare, there was nothing but stones. The entrance to the danger zone was a door-like thing surrounded by 2 arc-shaped stones. The arc-shaped stones were like 2 brackets, one on each side, connected at the top and separated at the bottom, making the doorway look very weird, not like the architectural style of other places inside. There were few traces of corpses on the edge of the entrance to this danger zone, but don't think that no one died here. In fact, the number of people who died in this danger zone was definitely no less than any other danger zone. You can't see the corpses because the corpses have disappeared without a trace, that's all. Otherwise, people would not collectively call this place the Ancestral Hall and another place as the 3 great danger zones. As soon as they stood outside this doorway, everyone felt a very awkward feeling. It seemed that this place was not like a place with a formation at all. There was no spiritual power fluctuation, no traces of prohibition, and there was nothing strange about the exploration of spiritual awareness. Even the hill seemed to be solid. In this place, would there be good things inside? Everyone was skeptical and puzzled. The doorway was not deep, and spiritual awareness could easily explore to the end. It was also bare and there was nothing inside. In the end, there was neither a passage nor any camouflage like a formation. What was inside? The 7 guides who were consulted at the time, each of them said this place. When everyone said this, they all said the same thing, which was basically exactly the same as what Yang Chun felt. It didn't look like a place where there was anything at all, but as long as anyone walked into the passage, they would disappear without a trace, and no one knew where they went. What was even more strange was that the people who walked in never came out. Not only did they not come out from here, but they were not among the people who went out of the Lang Yuel. They disappeared, which was very puzzling. Strange was strange, but there were more than 1 or 2 bold people. The more treacherous it was, the more attention it attracted. There were always people who were not afraid of death and wanted to touch their own opportunities. After taking a step in, they disappeared. Yang Chun stood at the door and felt a very strange feeling. However, he felt different from the women. This feeling seemed to have been experienced somewhere. The feeling was very subtle, so small that it was almost imperceptible, but it was so familiar. If it weren't for Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base that had reached the 10th grade of human immortal, it would be impossible to detect it. No way, so simple? Yang Chen couldn't believe that he would have such good luck. With a sigh in his heart, he took the profound spirit furnace out of the merit ring and held it in his hand. In a flash, a spiritual power went in and awakened the sleeping dragon spirit that had just become a tool spirit. What's the matter? He didn't know how many years it had been since he fell asleep with countless kinds of flames so easily. He didn't have to worry about the backlash of the spirit-devouring dragon fire, and he didn't have to worry about the dissipation of the spirit body. The dragon spirit's sleep was really comfortable. Yang Chen disturbed his good dream, which made the dragon spirit very dissatisfied. However, this dissatisfaction did not last. In the blink of an eye, the dragon spirit became energetic, and a surprised voice was passed to Yang Chen's mind through the profound spirit furnace. "My dragon scale, have you found it?" Chapter 1334. No one could have thought that the 2 arc-shaped stones that formed the doorway were simply 2 dragon scales. It was estimated that they fell during the battle and then embedded in this small stone mountain, forming such a unique shape. The battle at the time may have been very fierce. After the 2 dragon scales fell to the ground, they even melted the surrounding rocks and wrapped the dragon scales tightly in it. Only the exposed part still retained such a magical arc, making people mistakenly think that this was a portal. Of course, there were still some dragon scales on the original spirit-devouring dragon fire. This kind of fire seed was silent. Even the Grand Master Yang Chun, who played with fire, could not find it in time, let alone other people. This so-called doorway was not connected anywhere, just like the external performance that people used to explore with their spiritual awareness. But once a cultivator approached the so-called doorway between the 2 dragon scales, they would be quietly burned by the spirit-devouring dragon fire, and even the cultivator himself would not be aware of the burning. They were contaminated with the 7th grade fire seed, and it was still in the case of unpreparedness. Except for Yang Chen, who could use the merit chapter to use a lot of merit to save himself and collect the fire seed, other people would only have a dead end if they encountered it. Even if it was a more powerful fire attribute master, they could not escape this disaster. They would die if they touched it. The cultivators who entered would disappear, because they would eventually be burned by the spirit-devouring dragon fire. There was no weak water here to ease the fire and maintain the physical body. The pure spirit-devouring dragon fire would not leave any residue for people. It was not known how many cultivators thought that this mysterious disappearance was transferred to another space through some unknown mysterious high-level formation. No one thought of such a simple result. This has also led to a batch of guys who entered the Lang Yuel and boarded the Langya crystal ship. They began to explore the secrets of this so-called danger zone. They died generously, and their own cultivation base also became the nutrition to strengthen the spirit-devouring dragon fire. After all, the dragon scales were just dragon scales. There was no dragon spirit coordination and no other physical supplement. All the spirit-devouring dragon fire was only concentrated in the most central part of the two dragon scales, and it could not be felt from the outside. Only Yang Chen had such a keen sense and discovered this secret. The dragon spirit here was excited that its dragon scales had been found, and the profound spirit furnace was expected to be strengthened, and its own tribulation was hopeful. Yang Chen was smiling bitterly over there. Of the three dangerous places, one was the ancestral master hall, the other two were basically two pieces of foreign dragon scales. Who knew what kind of place the third one was? It was fortunate that so many people had entered, but none of them had been able to unravel the secret within. But no matter what, finding the dragon scale was worth being happy about. Fortunately, the predecessors did not know this secret. Otherwise, how could Yang Chen take advantage of it now? As for the fact that 2/3 of the three great danger zones were ripping people off, they were ripping others off and had nothing to do with Yang Chen. He couldn't blame anyone else for his poor foresight. The girls looked at Yang Chen standing in front of the portal with a bitter smile, and even took out the profound spirit furnace. Everyone was puzzled, and they were still worried that Yang Chen would walk in recklessly. "Husband, what are you laughing at?" asked Shi Wuchuang, who was standing the closest to him. "How many people I laugh at are fools," Yang Chen replied, but then he asked the dragon spirit in his heart, "How do you collect this dragon scale? For others, it may be quite troublesome." The dragon spirit quickly replied, "It's very simple for you, just pick it up and put it in the profound spirit furnace." Yang Chen was stunned and then shook his head and smiled bitterly. What the dragon spirit said was that for others, they had to be afraid of the power of the spirit-devouring dragon fire, but for Yang Chen, it was not necessary at all. The spirit-devouring dragon fire was already a kind of fire seed in the profound spirit furnace. In addition, Yang Chen had the merit chapter to protect himself. It could not hurt Yang Chen at all. What else did he care about? Yang Chen was also a blind person, so he asked. Everyone listened to Yang Chen's words, and they were all puzzled. Who was a fool? Yang Chen did not explain. He took a step forward and punched the edge of the doorway. The so-called doorway was simply a layer of stone wrapped around the dragon scale. After being smashed by Yang Chen, the stone was broken, revealing what was inside: 2 red slices with a thickness of a finger. What is this? The dragon scale has been falling for a long time, there is no dragon chi, or there is no aura at all, this is still maintaining the shape. Shi Wuchuang looked in the eyes and asked in surprise. This is what we are looking for temporarily. Yang Chen explained and began to clean up the surrounding stones, dragon scale. The women were stunned for a while. This second danger zone was actually where the dragon scale was located. This result made people speechless. Everyone listened to Yang Chen's previous narration and quickly figured out why this place became a danger zone. They also understood what Yang Chen meant when he said that many people were fools, and they couldn't help but smile bitterly. Don't move, there is still the spirit-devouring dragon fire. Yang Chen stopped everyone from helping, even Tao Junqi, who had the fire attribute, was no exception. The spirit-devouring dragon fire was quite powerful. Even if Tao Junqi was already at the peak Deshang stage, without sufficient preparation, it was impossible to touch it without being injured. In fact, even if Tao Junqi was fully prepared, it would be difficult to collect the spirit-devouring dragon fire. The 7th grade fire seed was not just a joke. It was not easy to collect as long as the cultivation base reached the peak Deshang stage. Otherwise, the life source fire seeds of countless masters should be 7th grade fire seed. In fact, there were very few people who could really collect a 7th grade fire seed like the pure Yang True Fire. As the dragon spirit said, for Yang Chen, the process of collecting was very simple. After easily smashing the surrounding rocks, 2 pieces of dragon scales with a radius of several feet appeared in front of everyone. The dragon scales were so big. It was conceivable how huge the dragon spirit's body was when it was still there. The profound spirit furnace quickly grew, and the 2 dragon scales were directly thrown in. Without the control of Yang Chen, countless flames began to emerge around and began to burn the dragon scales. The next thing, for the time being, Yang Chen did not need to intervene too much. He believed that the dragon spirit would do its best to manage the refining fusion for the benefits of its own tribulation. Yang Chen only needed to provide spiritual power at any time and anywhere and stand by without disturbing the dragon spirit, waiting. This is the second danger zone? When Gao Yu asked this sentence, there was a feeling of absurdity in the hearts of all the women. For the sake of 2 such places, it was not known how many people who came in before had died, and only then did the name of the danger zone become known. However, the truth was so simple, so absurd, and so shameful that it made many people feel ashamed. This is the second danger zone. Yang Chen replied affirmatively, and reached out to hold Gao Yu's hand to comfort her. Others danger zone, our blessing, that's all, don't think too much about it. Chapter 1335. When they flew to the third impasse, the women were obviously much less talkative. Gong Sunling and the Murong sisters were even more immersed in the jade slip, studying the array diagram with great concentration, and did not care about the things outside at all. The rest sat with Yang Chen, enjoying Shi Shanshan's fragrant tea and thinking about their own things. Actually, sometimes things are like this. Things are very simple, but many people think things are complicated. Yang Chen waited for 3 cups of tea before he opened his mouth and focused everyone's attention. Under Languel, there was originally a sect that was destroyed, and it can be said with certainty that it was destroyed by the dragon spirit at that time. Yang Chen glanced at the beautiful faces in front of him and held Shi Shanshan, who was the closest to him, in his arms. After taking another sip of tea from her hand, he continued, "A sudden massacre, who would have the time to set up so many puzzles? Some things, the simpler you think, the closer you are to the truth." All the women nodded slightly. Everyone was misled by the legend of Languel and the difficulty of boarding the Langya crystal ship, but they forgot the most basic principle of analysis. In this case, those who died in the past to build the reputation of the impasse, their deaths were really not worth it. The Great Way is simple, and it is even more so when cultivating. Some things are not so complicated. Yang Chen suddenly changed the topic to cultivation. As he spoke, Yang Chen's head also turned to Tao Junqi. "Junqi, you don't rely on alchemy to make a living. Why do you have to learn from me and practice those small fire-controlling techniques?" Tao Junqi was taken aback. She did not expect Yang Chen to change the topic directly to her. But after listening to Yang Chen's words, Tao Junqi also began to think about it involuntarily. The direction of your previous cultivation was not wrong. There is no need to learn from me. Yang Chen's words continued to enter Tao Junqi's ears. Every word seemed to carry a magical power, causing her to involuntarily immerse herself in it. You've somewhat forgotten the purpose of your cultivation. Over the years, under the influence of Yang Chen, almost 99% of the alchemists who knew the secrets of Yang Chen's alchemy had begun to learn from Yang Chen and practice the imperial fire technique. Even among the fire elementalists who were not pill refiners, almost half of them were following suit. Tao Junqi was one of them. With Tao Junqi's cultivation aptitude in the fire attribute and her current cultivation base, it was naturally a piece of cake for her to practice the fire-controlling technique that even He Lian, a foundation establishment cultivator, could master. During the practice, Tao Junqi also deeply learned some of the principles of controlling fire. Her ability to control fire improved even further. It was just that in Yang Chen's opinion, there was nothing wrong with Tao Junqi studying the fire-controlling technique, but to continue studying it in depth was somewhat neglecting the essentials. The foundation of cultivation was still the source of the great Tao, and not some small trick. Some things, when the realm reached a certain level, would naturally be understood. Just like junior high school students learning the parabolic function, it takes a long time to derive the formula of the maximum or minimum value, and finally, they would memorize the formula and apply it flexibly. But after learning calculus, it was just a simple derivation of the extreme value. The calculation was only one step, and it was not too difficult. When the realm reached a certain level, it would naturally be understood, and the truth was the same. Tao Junqi had just entered the peak Deshang stage from the late Deshang stage and was still in the stage of consolidating her cultivation base. But recently, she forgot that her cultivation was to improve the realm and transcend the tribulation to ascend, not to temper the means of controlling fire. Any practice should be worked towards that general direction, and should not be entangled in a small area. As Yang Chen said, Tao Junqi did not rely on alchemy to make a living. There was really no need to be entangled in the delicate fire-controlling technique at this time. She should continue her own style and cultivate with indomitable will. This was the right way. Cultivation should have been very simple, but Tao Junqi thought of it as complicated, so such a situation occurred. Taking this opportunity, Yang Chen woke up Tao Junqi by the way. She was his own concubine, and he couldn't watch her cultivation deviate. The matter of the 2 danger zones was a good time. Simple things were complicated by people, and there were 3 great danger zones. Now that the danger zones were cracked one by one, everyone knew that the truth was so simple. Tao Junqi was also a smart person, and immediately realized her previous problems. "Thank you very much." Tao Junqi stood up and gave a respectful salute to Yang Chen. If it weren't for Yang Chen's timely awakening, maybe she would have to be confused for a long time to find her original path. This time, at least, saved her decades of cultivation time. After bowing to Yang Chen, Tao Junqi said again, "My husband's sisters, Junqi has a realization and has to retreat for a while. Please help me take care of my husband." The other women congratulated her. Tao Junqi had this realization. They believed that when she finished her retreat, it would be the time when her realm of the peak Deshang stage was firmly consolidated. This was a great joy, and of course, it was worth congratulating. Yang Chen didn't say anything, handed over a bottle of second-grade questioning inner heart pills, and then received Tao Junqi into the Dragon Palace. The spiritual power there was abundant, and no one would disturb her. It was the best place for retreat. After the consolidation of the peak Deshang stage, in fact, it was only a step away from crossing the tribulation and ascending. The difference was only a certain opportunity or a certain epiphany, which could trigger the tribulation and naturally cross the tribulation and ascend. With Yang Chen there, was there a need to fear that such an opportunity would not appear? It could be said that Tao Junqi's tribulation in a short time was already a sure thing, and there would be no mistakes. It was estimated that the Yang family would stay in the Langyuel for at least 100 years or so. Either Tao Junqi would cross her tribulation in the Langyuel, or she would cross her tribulation immediately after going out. Anyway, there were some things that Tao Junqi was doomed to not see, and would not experience. This was Yang Chen's protection of Tao Junqi, and also to avoid Tao Junqi's dilemma when facing the sect and righteousness. The Taishamen in the mortal world were destined to be destroyed. Yang Chen did not want Tao Junqi to see this scene with her own eyes, and did not want her to experience it personally. The 3rd danger zone was in front of them. When they arrived at the destination, Yang Chen put away the shuttle and put the women down. Everyone began to carefully observe the 3rd danger zone. They didn't know if this last danger zone was as simple as the first 2, but it was artificially complicated. They didn't know if there was the pure and true fire that Yang Chen was looking for. Everything could only wait until everyone cracked the secrets of this danger zone. This was indeed a formation. It was very obvious. It looked like the formation was very sharp, and there were a lot of dead bodies. Yang Chen's family was very cautious, standing on the periphery and observing carefully. "Isn't this the array of the ancestral master hall?" Gong Sunling looked at it for a while and suddenly said, Chapter 1336. Surprises always come unexpectedly. At first Yang Chun thought that the third danger zone was a simple place that had been complicated by others, but now it seemed that it was far from the case. This place that was heavily protected by a strong formation was the true treasure trove of the ancient sect, otherwise its formation diagram would not have appeared in the sect's ancestral hall and existed in such an unimaginable way. No matter what, to be able to find such a treasure trove was always exciting. Moreover, Yang Chun had a premonition that the pure and true fire that he was looking for might be preserved in this danger zone. He could recognize the formation diagram, but to understand the theory behind the formation, it was not a matter of a day or two. This kind of ancient formation diagram was tens of thousands of years different from the current knowledge system. To understand it in detail would require Gong Sunling and the Murong sisters to spend a lot of time. This last danger zone formation was definitely a powerful formation. This point could be seen from the corpses strewn all over the area inside the formation. Those were the corpses that had not completely decayed. The fresh corpses could also be seen through the light released by Yang Chun and the rest. They were all fellows who did not believe in heresy. They always felt that they were destined to be blessed by the heavens, overflowing with good fortune. Gods and ghosts would avoid them, all the good things should belong to them. If these people did not have this kind of thinking, why would they still rush in wave after wave when they clearly saw the corpses as a warning? Riches move people's hearts, that was a common saying for secular people, but after seeing so many corpses, it seemed to have the same effect for cultivators. Since it was confirmed that this formation diagram was the one formed by the smoke in the ancestral hall, then there was no need for Yang Chen's family to stay at the entrance of this danger zone and actively attract the attention of others. If one wanted to study the formation diagram, there were many hidden places. The commotion at the ancestral hall attracted many people to rush over to see what was going on. It was believed that very soon, the second danger zone would disappear with their eyes. Those guides who asked Yang Chun for directions at that time would definitely think of Yang Chun. It was very likely that they would come to the third danger zone and wait for him here. Everyone only saw the ancestral master hall explode. They did not know that Yang Chun and his family did not obtain anything other than a formation map. They also did not know that the dozen or so fellows were most likely dead. Those who came to search for treasures could only think that Yang Chun and his family might have obtained something coveted from the ancestral master hall and the second impasse. All right. Wanting to understand this situation, Yang Chen was very inexplicable and said a sentence. When Yang Chen's words were heard by the women, they looked at him strangely. Yang Chen smiled and said his considerations. The women were still confused. Why did Yang Chen say that it was okay in such a situation? A Yu, a Ling, Shanshan and Little Shui have all gone to the demon continent to gain experience. You guys don't have this opportunity and lack some opportunities to deal with crazy killing. Yang Chen explained with a smile. Right now is a good opportunity. We are definitely the target of public criticism. Everyone wants to get some benefits from us. It just so happens that you guys can also train. Isn't this a bit not good? As soon as they heard that all the other people here were imaginary enemies, Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters came from a big sect, and they belonged to the kind of righteous Tao sect. Using killing to hone themselves was obviously a bit repulsive. If they don't look for us, we won't do it, right? Yang Chen dispelled all the concerns of the women in one sentence. There is nothing in the world, people worry about nothing. If they are not confused by greed, we will not have a reason to do it. Everything is up to them, and no one is forcing them. Whether they live or die, it's up to them to decide. Although he said this in his mouth, before deciphering the diagram, Yang Chun still didn't want to carry out some meaningless killing. He just let Gong Sunling find a relatively hidden corner, opened the Mountain River geographical map, and took everyone in. The Mountain River geographical map was absolutely safe at this stage. Even if someone rushed in, they would never be the opponent of the hundreds of Deshang stage masters in the Mountain River geographical map. Moreover, as long as they rushed in, everything was not up to them, but decided by Gong Sunling. Gong Sunling and the Murong sisters were interpreting the diagram, and others were cultivating separately. In addition to paying attention to the refining of the core of the demon continent that he had been carrying out, Yang Chen was waiting for the profound spirit furnace to refine the dragon scales. Yang Chen didn't need to do it himself. As long as he continued to input spiritual power, the dragon scales would naturally control the appropriate flame to refine. It was not known how many years the dragon scales had been placed. Except for a little spirit-devouring dragon fire that could continue to burn with the supplement of those cultivators, there was not much spiritual power left. The refinement this time had saved him a lot of effort. In addition, the dragon scales were originally part of the dragon spirit's physical body as the profound spirit furnace. There was no problem of compatibility at all. In just a few months, the two huge dragon scales with a radius of several feet began to slowly soften and turn into a red liquid. Such a smooth process was also thanks to the various kinds of fire seeds in the profound spirit furnace. Although there was only one kind of 7th grade fire seed, and there were only 2 kinds of 6th grade fire seeds, the fire seeds below the 6th grade included almost all the flames in the world. Almost all the flames that the fire dragon spirit wanted to use could be found. The melted dragon scales, under the control of Yang Chen, slowly integrated into the furnace body of the profound spirit furnace. The furnace body, which had been supplemented with a lot of cyan crystal profound gold, began to slowly turn into a pale purple, and there were slight changes in the style. There was a dragon pattern on the furnace body. The dragon pattern was vivid and lifelike, as if it would break the furnace and fly out in the next moment. This change was only the beginning. When the profound spirit furnace was reformed, Yang Chen felt a strong suction from the profound spirit furnace, and the spiritual power on his body was madly seized. In a moment, the 3rd fire true essence and the 4th fire true essence in Yang Chen's body were almost absorbed. Yang Chen had long been prepared. If the dragon spirit wanted to cross the tribulation, it must need a lot of spiritual power. Several kinds of original spiritual liquids in the gourd were already prepared. When he found that there was something different, Yang Chen immediately took out the gourd and began to absorb it madly. The great Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art showed enough strength at this time. The 5 elements were exchanged anytime and anywhere, and other spiritual power was converted into fire attribute spiritual power. At the same time, it was supplemented from the outside, and it controlled the absorption speed of the dragon spirit. Finally, before the profound spirit furnace drained its own fire attribute spiritual power, it maintained an uninterrupted supply of spiritual power. It's actually the original spiritual power, great. The dragon spirit also noticed that the spiritual power it absorbed was different. After making a happy cry, it began to absorb vigorously. Chapter 1337. Yang Chen still underestimated what kind of spiritual power a dragon spirit needed to cross its tribulation. Fortunately, the various original spiritual powers in the gourd were sufficient, so Yang Chen was not sucked dry by the damn dragon spirit. But even so, it took almost a few months for Yang Chen to finally realize that the profound spirit furnace no longer absorbed his own spiritual power. After letting go of his hand, the profound spirit furnace automatically suspended in the air and began to grow slowly, almost to the limit, then it stopped. At this moment, the profound spirit furnace was almost the size of a small room. After fusing with the dragon scales, it seemed that the shape had become a lot larger. The lavender furnace body rotated slowly in the air, and from time to time, a wisp of flame emerged, which looked very mysterious. Ling, send us out, the profound spirit furnace is going to cross its tribulation. Yang Chen told Gong Sunling, and then took the bottle of medicine garden in his hand. In a blink of an eye, Yang Chen noticed that he seemed to have changed places. Yang Chen knew that this was returning to the real world from the Mountain River geographical map. Among the people present, perhaps only Yang Chen and Gong Sunling could feel this change. Others, even Gao Yushi Shanshan and Sun Qingxue, who had already reached the second grade of the human immortal realm, could not detect it. The profound spirit furnace is going to cross its tribulation? The women who heard this were a little surprised. They had only heard of some legendary magic weapons that would cross their tribulation, but they had never imagined that it would happen in front of them. Everyone was in high spirits, waiting to observe the miracle. A Ling, protect everyone. After Yang Chen told Gong Sunling, he temporarily ignored his wives and concubines. At the moment, the magic weapons tribulation was important, and the explanation would be said later. A Zhu and a Bai, the spirit of the profound spirit furnace is going to cross its tribulation, you should see it. The purpose of Yang Chen taking out the medicine garden bottle was to let a Zhu and a Bai watch the dragon spirit's tribulation. At this moment, he also summoned the two women. Once again, the girls were surprised to see the shadows of two young girls appear beside Yang Chen. They stood quietly, waiting to watch the scene of the dragon spirit transcending the tribulation. These two girls had never seen it before, even Gao Yu. As for where they came from, no one knew. It was just that this time was really not the time to care about this. The girls were also resisting their curiosity and waiting for the profound spirit furnace to cross the tribulation. The tribulation clouds began to condense, but in this pitch-black space, no one could see this scene. However, the aura of the heavenly tribulation could not be hidden from the others. Everyone looked in that direction in confusion. There was a shockingly powerful aura gathering there. Kacha Kacha, the thick thunder light mercilessly hit the profound spirit furnace, and the thunder light illuminated the surrounding environment. When the people saw this scene from afar, they realized that someone was undergoing a tribulation. It was just strange that those who came in were all masters of the nascent soul and Dashang stage. How could there be people crossing the thunder tribulation? Yes, there must be a master who brought in the younger generation of the peak Jedon stage, and when it was time to break through, it triggered the tribulation. Everyone thought so in their hearts, and the time was also a lot more at ease. A Jedon stage cultivator crossing the thunder tribulation to become a Yuanying stage was not worthy of many people's attention. The only difference from the ordinary tribulation was that the thunder light was very thick, almost comparable to the time when Yang Chen crossed the tribulation. Unfortunately, the thunder tribulation, no matter how heaven-defying it was just a thunder tribulation, and it could not make many masters of the Yuanying stage and Dashang stage work hard. Yang Chen's heart was clear. The profound spirit furnace crossing the tribulation was just like the heaven-seizing pill crossing the tribulation in the past. It started with the thunder tribulation, and then it would cross the Yin fire tribulation and the wind tribulation step by step. After all of them, it was considered to have completed the tribulation. The body of the profound spirit furnace was shining in the thunder light, and at the same time, everyone could clearly see that after each thunder light baptism, the furnace body would become smaller. Everyone understood that this was the same as the cultivator crossing the tribulation and using the tribulation to temper the body. After a while, the 9 chaotic thunder tribulation ended, the tribulation clouds of the thunder tribulation dissipated, and then the tribulation clouds of the Yin fire tribulation began to condense. Everyone in the space was surprised to find that the tribulation clouds of the Yin fire tribulation were produced, and someone was about to cross the Yin fire tribulation. This time, it was not that no one cared. At least half of the people began to pay attention to this direction, and those who were close had already begun to rush to this side. No matter what, it was impossible to stop the fall of the Yin fire tribulation. The profound spirit furnace began the baptism of the Yin fire tribulation in the cheerful dragon spirit. The voice of the dragon spirit, for the time being, only Yang Chen could hear it. Unfortunately, it could not be shared with the people around him, so that they could also hear it. A Zhu and a Bai have been beside Yang Chen, staring at the scene of the dragon spirit's tribulation, and madly absorbing the experience. Today's dragon spirit would be their future, and they couldn't help but be tempted. Before Yang Chen found the blood demon vine, found the immortal peach, and even found the first wood spiritual solution and the second wood spiritual solution, a Zhu and a Bai could not reach the realm of crossing the tribulation. At best, they were only at the level of the Yuanying stage, and they could not attract the tribulation at all. This was why the owner of the medicine garden left them in the mortal world. Since there was a tool spirit, if the tool spirit could not grow with the master, then it would be a disaster for the tool spirit to bring it to the spiritual world. It was not as good as a magic weapon without a tool spirit. At that time, the owner of the medicine garden coveted the convenience of the tool spirit to take care of the spirit medicine and refined the two women into tool spirits, but in the end, he could only leave the medicine garden in the mortal world, which benefited Yang Chen. With the irrigation of a large number of first wood spiritual solution and second wood spiritual solution, coupled with their integration of the blood demon vine, demonized demon vine, and the immortal peach tree, a Zhu and a Bai finally grew to the point where it was possible to cross the tribulation. However, the two of them did not have a clear understanding of their own realm like the dragon spirit, and knew that they should cross the tribulation. Therefore, the two women were still in chaos. Yang Chen himself also ignored this problem. It was not until the dragon spirit proposed to cross the tribulation that Yang Chen realized that a Zhu and a Bai were probably on the verge of crossing the tribulation. It just so happened that the dragon spirit's tribulation could give the two of them a living demonstration. Such an opportunity was simply a gift from the heavens. Under the close observation of Yang Chen's family, under the attentive experience of a Zhu and a Bai, under the puzzled attention of countless people around, the fire tribulation began quietly. The profound spirit furnace was a magic weapon of the fire attribute. It was integrated with the cyan crystal profound gold and the dragon scales. All of them were materials of the fire attribute. In addition, it had absorbed thousands of kinds of fire seeds. The fire that people heard of was simply a great tonic for the profound spirit furnace. Relying on the control of the dragon spirit, at the beginning of each fire tribulation, the profound spirit furnace would use the power of the fire to temper itself and also quietly absorb a wisp of fire. When the 9 fire tribulation fell, it could also absorb 9 wisps of fire. Chapter 1338. Everything was controlled by the spirit of the profound spirit furnace. What happened during the tribulation, Yang Chen did not know now. He only knew that the profound spirit furnace had now successfully passed the fire tribulation and was preparing to welcome the arrival of the next section of the wind tribulation. The aura in the sky was already very obvious. The wind tribulation was not comparable to the thunder tribulation and the fire tribulation. In this space of tens of thousands of miles, even if you hide in the deepest hole, you can still clearly feel the aura of the heavenly tribulation. Every master who successfully crossed the tribulation and ascended could be known by many people, because the influence of the wind tribulation was too wide. Now, countless people have rushed to the vicinity and saw all this through the flashing thunder in the sky. No one dared to use their spiritual awareness to explore at this time. It was to find trouble for themselves. Their spiritual awareness invaded the scope of the Master's tribulation, which was to actively provoke the heavenly tribulation, and they would definitely be affected. Everyone could only stand far away from the safety zone and watch this grand occasion with the help of the flickering dim light. Today was destined to be a day that countless people would remember forever. Under the witness of at least hundreds of people, a tall lavender pill furnace was suspended in the air and began its tribulation process. The wind tribulation blew past, and its body shrank and condensed again and again, and finally turned into a pill furnace with a height of more than 1 foot. The wind tribulation disappeared, and the lavender pill furnace slowly fell into the hands of Yang Chen, not far away. This scene fell into the eyes of all the people who were watching the wind tribulation. What is that? Oh my God! No way! Magic weapon tribulation? Alchemy furnace tribulation, how is it possible? The masters who witnessed all this couldn't believe their eyes. No one dared to make a sound when the profound spirit furnace was crossing the tribulation. After this tribulation, everyone's mouth involuntarily made all kinds of exclamations. If it weren't for all the people around them having such a tone, so many masters would simply doubt whether everyone was collectively in an illusion, otherwise how could they see the legendary scene? The magic weapon tribulation, this kind of scene that only existed in legends, actually happened once in front of their own eyes. You can't blame everyone for being strange. This scene, whether it was the people who watched the ceremony or what happened, was really a rare example. No wonder he felt the thunder tribulation, the fire tribulation, and the black wind tribulation gathering together in just a short while. It turned out that it was the magic treasures tribulation. The freaks in front had an explanation immediately. This trip to the Languel was definitely not in vain. Even if he did not obtain anything, just being able to survive and witness this scene was already worth the trip. In the future, when he returned to the outside world, this experience would definitely be something that countless people would be proud of. After exclaiming in admiration, many people had another thought. How good would it be if the alchemy furnace used to cross the tribulation was his? As soon as this thought popped up, countless people couldn't control their thoughts, and their eyes turned bloodshot. What kind of concept was a magic treasure that had survived heavenly tribulation? It was not an exaggeration to say that it was earth-shattering. Such a magic treasure was at the pinnacle of the mortal world, to the point where it could not be improved. Even in the spiritual world and the immortal world, it was probably a treasure that countless experts dreamed of. Why did everyone come to Languel? At the end of the day, wasn't it all for the sake of getting rich and finding the treasures hidden deep within the Languel? However, what kind of treasure could be compared to the magic treasure that everyone had witnessed transcending the thunder tribulation, fire tribulation, and wind tribulation? Some people recognized Yang Chen's identity, but in this dark environment, without using their divine consciousness to explore, there were still more people who did not recognize Yang Chen. Everyone only knew that someone had obtained a magic treasure after transcending the tribulation. This kind of magic treasure should belong to a virtuous person, and that was enough. What was a virtuous person? In the world of cultivators, those who had a high cultivation level were not virtuous. Everyone began to think about how to find the owner of the magic treasure and snatch the alchemy furnace used to transcend the tribulation. Those who recognized Yang Chen's identity were also tempted. What was Yang Chen most famous for these years? Wasn't it his identity as a fifth-grade alchemist? That alchemy furnace belonged to Yang Chen. With such a powerful alchemy furnace, perhaps Yang Chen could become a fifth-grade alchemist master because of this magic treasure alchemy furnace. The cultivation secret of the fifth-grade alchemist master that Yang Chen sold was not something that everyone was qualified to know. The sect that was bought at a high price, which one of them was not carefully hidden, and then secretly cultivated the most core disciples of their own sect? How could the guys who entered the Languel to try their luck have a chance to know this? Ignorance brought more guesses. The experts who had witnessed the alchemy cauldron's tribulation with their own eyes had turned their guesses in the direction of what they thought was the most reasonable explanation. An alchemy furnace that could transcend the tribulation, didn't this explain everything? While outsiders were using their brains, Yang Chen didn't care at all. Holding the profound spirit furnace after transcending the tribulation, Yang Chen has fallen into ecstasy. This was his first magic weapon to cross the tribulation. This alone was enough to make Yang Chen happy to the point that he couldn't control himself. If he didn't study it immediately after getting it, when would he wait? A Zhu and a Bai have been sent back to the medicine garden in time. He believed that after witnessing the tribulation of the profound spirit furnace, they would definitely have some insights. At this time, it was better to let them absorb and digest what they saw, without disturbing them. The girls were equally happy, but looking at Yang Chen's overjoyed appearance, no one disturbed him. Even Gao Yu, who wanted to know the identity of a Zhu and a Bai the most, stood aside and looked at Yang Chen with a smile, waiting for Yang Chen to wake up from that state. Yang Chen couldn't care about anything else. The first thing he did after getting the pill furnace was to use his spiritual awareness to check the changes in the pill furnace. As soon as his spiritual awareness entered the profound spirit furnace, it was connected with the consciousness of the dragon spirit. After experiencing the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, coupled with the profound spirit furnace as a body, the state of the dragon spirit was many times better than before, and it was no longer that kind of weak appearance. As soon as it came into contact with Yang Chen's spiritual awareness, the dragon spirit released a powerful aura, at least the level of the human immortal 4th grade. The aura was mixed with an invisible power, as if it wanted to give Yang Chen a show of strength. This level of pressure could not make Yang Chen feel anything. Yang Chen just took the pressure issued by the dragon spirit as if nothing had happened, and then began to explore the changes in the profound spirit furnace. Yang Chen's performance made the dragon spirit a little hit. He thought that after experiencing the heavenly tribulation, he could press down on Yang Chen, and also a little revenge on him for threatening himself with Xiao Tian, but he didn't expect it to be all useless. You have the dragon essence to protect your body, you are lucky. After discovering that he couldn't do anything to Yang Chen, the dragon spirit could only make such a helpless murmur. Chapter 1339. Yang Chen just smiled and did not intend to argue with Long Yuan. Anyway, the dragon spirit has promised to be the tool spirit of his own profound spirit furnace before he finds the object of possession. This little bit of dissatisfaction can be completely ignored, as long as he does his best to refine pills for himself during this period of time as a tool spirit. Because of the addition of dragon scales in the materials, the biggest change was that the profound spirit furnace seemed to have a life and a feeling, and all parts of the furnace body had a feeling of life. When the medicinal materials entered the profound spirit furnace, it was as if Yang Chen's hand was stroking it. At the same time, it seemed that there was an unspeakable visual change. What changes in the medicinal liquid during alchemy would be more vivid and clear to Yang Chen? The profound spirit furnace seemed to be easier to control. In particular, so many fire seeds were arranged together by the dragon spirit in a more efficient way, and it was more convenient to use. This change alone could greatly improve the efficiency of Yang Chen's alchemy. In the past, it took a year to refine the medicinal pills, but now it may only take 11 months to complete. Of course, this was purely Yang Chen's own estimate. To know how long it would take, he needed to master it in actual alchemy. Another most powerful change was to upgrade the grade of the medicinal pills. In the past, Yang Chen knew that the profound spirit furnace could improve the grade of the medicinal pills. Ordinary medicinal pills, as long as they were refined by the profound spirit furnace, could automatically increase a grade. For a long time, Yang Chen has only produced the second-grade medicinal pills because of this reason. In the past, the upgrade grade was limited to ordinary medicinal pills, such as the questioning inner heart pill, which was a difficult medicinal pill, could only be upgraded by half a grade at most. However, now Yang Chen could clearly know that no matter what medicinal pill it was, the profound spirit furnace could upgrade a grade. Even if it was the heaven-seizing pill, it could directly produce the second-grade heaven-seizing pill. This was a great change, which also meant that Yang Chen could take out the 4th grade or even the 5th grade questioning inner heart pill at any time and anywhere. It must be known that before the questioning inner heart pill, Yang Chen could at most produce the 2nd grade. The 3rd grade might be barely possible, but the 4th grade was definitely not sure. The second-grade questioning inner heart pill has made countless people scramble for it. It can be imagined how crazy it would be if the fourth grade or the fifth grade questioning inner heart pill came into being. Those masters who had enough cultivation but lack of confidence may not need to consume any 100 years pills or hide in the demon seal array to cultivate. A fourth grade questioning inner heart pill absolutely guaranteed to ascend. Everything was Yang Chen's estimation. Now that the pill furnace was in his hand, Yang Chen could not bear it. He immediately told his wife and concubine, a Ling protector, "I want to refine pills." Then, without saying anything, he directly entered the mountain river geographical map, set up his posture, and began to refine pills. None of the girls would interfere with Yang Chen at this time. They even wanted to know more than Yang Chen. What changes would there be after the calamity of the profound spirit furnace? Yang Chen was about to refine the pill, and it was also the time to test it. The girls immediately began to get busy. They followed Yang Chen into the mountain and river diagram and began to protect the surroundings. Of course, he would refine the highest grade medicinal pill. Yang Chen directly found a lot of hundreds of thousands of years old elixirs from the third layer of the medicine garden space, all of which were the medicinal materials needed for the questioning inner heart pill. After careful tempering, Yang Chen began to throw these elixirs into the profound spirit furnace one by one. Soon Yang Chen discovered that it was superfluous for him to quench it outside in advance. After the profound spirit furnace had a tool spirit, it would automatically refine the medicinal materials. Because of the dragon scales and the aura of the dragon yuan, the effect of the refined medicinal materials was better than Yang Chen's refining outside. Immersed in the alchemy, Yang Chen has forgotten the passage of time. He only knew that he easily completed the first-grade refining of the questioning inner heart pill, then completed the second-grade refining relatively easily, and completed the third-grade refining with confidence. When it came to the fourth-grade refining, he felt that he was not so completely sure of success. Even so, under the careful control of Yang Chen, with the cooperation of the dragon spirit, and Yang Chen's conscious little risks, the fourth-grade refining experienced several mistakes that could not be regarded as accidents, and was finally completed without danger. Next, Yang Chen did not continue, and continuing the fifth-grade refining would be a waste of things. Hundreds of thousands of years old elixirs were not cabbages that could be casually wasted. Stop the furnace, collect the pills. Yang Chen used a series of skillful techniques in the Supreme Lord Pill scripture to draw a perfect end to this experimental alchemy. A furnace of materials, a total of 666 questioning inner heart pills, were successfully refined. With such a good thing as the medicine nourishing gourd, the medicinal pills that Yang Chen refined must be placed in it. After collecting the medicinal pills, Yang Chen picked one in his hand and observed it carefully. The round medicinal pill had a smooth and round appearance, like a delicate jade surface. On the pure white elixir, there were 5 slender and clear dragon-shaped elixir marks evenly distributed. The 5 dragon heads converged in a certain position on the elixir, leaving a small white circular area. It was like a scene of 5 dragons playing with a pearl, adding to the beauty of the elixir. "It's beautiful!" Sun Qingshue's exclamation came from the side, and Yang Chen didn't even think about it. He turned directly and stuffed the medicinal pill into Sun Qingshue's hand. Then he looked at the smiling wives and concubines around him. Each of them had one, no one left. Except for Tao Junki, who was still in retreat, everyone had one. What kind of medicinal pill is this? The medicine chi was perfectly locked in the medicinal pill. Everyone had never seen this kind of medicinal pill with dragon marks, and no one knew what this medicinal pill was. On behalf of everyone, Gao Yu asked directly. As she asked, she put the medicinal pill in front of her eyes and observed it carefully. 5 revolutions questioning inner heart pill. My husband's craftsmanship is not bad. Yang Chen looked at the happy faces of the women, and he was happy in his heart and replied happily. 4 revolutions refining, but the result was a 5 revolutions medicinal pill. Even if it was a medicinal pill of the level of questioning inner heart pill, Yang Chen couldn't help but be happy. Murong Yen, who was admiring the beauty of the medicinal pill, almost shivered and threw the medicinal pill in her hand. The other women were not much better. They were all shocked, and then involuntarily clenched their hands. Fortunately, everyone reacted in time, otherwise the medicinal pill would definitely be crushed. The questioning inner heart pill was already a monster. On ordinary days, everyone would take the second revolution's questioning inner heart pill for ordinary retreat cultivation, which made people feel that they were really wasting natural resources. Now suddenly holding a 5 revolutions questioning inner heart pill in her hand, even Gao Yushi Shanshan, who was in a stable state of mind, could not help but feel excited. After the excitement, all the women had the same reaction. They cautiously put the medicinal pill, which could be said to be the most precious in the mortal world, into their best jade bottle, and carefully put it into their qiankuan bag. Only then did their beautiful eyes shine brightly, and they looked at their husband. Chapter 1340. When the alchemy furnace crossed the tribulation, who were the 2 girls beside you? Just when Yang Chen was waiting for the women to praise him with an admiring tone, Gao Yu's question made Yang Chen almost smile bitterly. There was no other reason. The tone of his master and wife was full of an indescribable taste. Are you talking about them? Yang Chen's heart moved, and he called a Zhu and a Bai out again. Yang Chen did not calculate how long he had been refining the alchemy, and the 2 women had completed the process of absorbing the experience of the profound spirit furnace. As soon as the 2 women appeared, they faced the somewhat impolite eyes of the wives and concubines. Yang Chen was now a veteran in the field of flowers. Of course, he understood what this look meant. Gao Yu's eyes were particularly impolite, not only facing a Zhu and a Bai, but also targeting Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters. You must know that Gao Yu had already told them to look after their husband. As a result, 2 young women appeared inexplicably around Yang Chen. Greetings, mistress. A Zhu and a Bai already knew the identity of Gao Yu and the others. Of course, they didn't even think about it. This title of mistress made Gao Yu and the women look at each other and look at Yang Chen with puzzled eyes. Come with me. Yang Chen waved his hand and brought all the women into the medicine garden. Everyone knew that Yang Chen had a medicine garden, but no one had ever come in. As soon as they came in, the women saw the dense profound yang fruit field, and hundreds of thousands of profound yang fruits of thousands of years were presented in front of the women. Accustomed to seeing a large amount of wealth appear in front of them, the women were not shocked by such a scene. However, after watching Yang Chen pick one and peel it casually and eat it like eating a fruit, there was still a very strange feeling. There were rare medicinal materials everywhere that could be sold at a lot of prices outside. This posture, this scene, looking at the large ginseng field not far away, it was not ginseng, it was clearly a crop. Everyone, don't just watch, do it yourselves. Yang Chen smiled at everyone, waved his hand and said, the profound yang fruit is better when it's peeled, remember. Don't try to change the topic. Gao Yu had eaten a lot of profound yang fruit and was not surprised at all. She stared at the problem outside. Oh, that's their real bodies. Yang Chen pointed behind the girls, and they turned their heads in unison. Then, they saw a huge peach tree and lush vines. A Zhu and a Bai are the spirits of my medicine garden. With the words of Yang Chen, the peach tree turned into a Zhu and the rattan turned into a Bai. The 2 women once again stood in front of the girls. After understanding the identity of a Zhu and a Bai, when the women looked at them again, there was a lot more sympathy in their eyes. Even if they were demons, knowing that they had been refined alive into weapon spirits was not something to be happy about. They looked at a Zhu and a Bai with sympathetic eyes, and when they looked at Yang Chen, there was a little more blame in the eyes of the women. This method of refining living creatures into weapon spirits could be said to be against reason, and it was not successful every time. Every magic weapon with a weapon spirit, it was not known how many lives it took to complete it, and it was not taken by the Dao sect's cultivators. It's just that Yang Chun was the husband of the women, and they couldn't directly blame him, they could only use this kind of gaze to express their attitude. When I got the medicine garden, they were already weapon spirits. Yang Chen shook his head and explained. In fact, he didn't like this method. If the weapon spirit was not willing, even if it became a weapon spirit, it would not be of much help to the master. It was better not to have it. The dragon spirit had reached an agreement with Yang Chen and voluntarily became a weapon spirit, so there was the profound spirit furnace tribulation. A Zhu and a Bai were estimated to be unwilling to cooperate with the original master at that time, so they were abandoned in the mortal world. Fortunately, Yang Chen provided them with the blood phantom vine and the immortal peach tree, so that they were proud of the integration and promotion, and also obtained the recognition of the two women, which was the real master. After understanding this layer of reason, the women no longer looked at Yang Chen with that kind of eyes. At the same time, they also understood why Yang Chen would let a Zhu and a Bai appear to watch the ceremony when the profound spirit furnace tribulation. It was clearly to prepare for the medicine garden. Since they entered the medicine garden, of course, it was necessary to take a closer look and understand the family assets of their husband. Yang Chen didn't mind and let them observe at will. Soon, except for Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, the other women were attracted by the dozens of thunder pomegranate trees that were thousands of years old. Is this thunder pomegranate? Shi Wushuang looked at the pomegranate fruits that were bigger than a human head on the tree and couldn't help but ask. In fact, she just couldn't believe it. How could such an experienced and knowledgeable master not recognize the thunder pomegranate? It's just that everyone has never heard of anyone who has successfully planted the thunder pomegranate. Seeing this scene in front of them, they couldn't help but be a little surprised. Yang Chen's joke on the heaven stairway was impossible to spread widely. After so many years, who would notice what a little guy in the qi refining stage had said at that time? So many thunder pomegranates, each one was enough to help a peak Jedon stage cultivator successfully cross the tribulation. According to this calculation, if Yang Chen was willing to take out these thunder pomegranates, he could definitely create a large number of Yuanying stage masters for Chunyang Palace in a short period of time. The women didn't need the thunder pomegranate, so they wouldn't pay attention to this on weekdays. No one would know that in the past few hundred years, almost all the thunder pomegranates on the market came from Yang Chen, and through the release of the Wanbao Tower and the Wine Immortal House, he really made a lot of spirit stones. As for the creation of Yuanying stage masters that everyone imagined, Yang Chen did not support doing so. Yang Chen would only let the other party use the thunder pomegranate unless it was a disciple whose qualifications were really limited and who had contributed to the sect. Otherwise, for the user, it would be harmful, and it would basically cut off the road of further improvement in the future, and they could only die in the Yuanying stage. The thunder pomegranate was just a small episode. The women had seen things that were 100 times more precious than this. At most, they were a little surprised here, and then when they remembered that this was their husband's medicine garden, they immediately felt that it was reasonable. After the women turned around in the medicine garden, they left the medicine garden with satisfaction. However, after this trip, the women knew some of Yang Chen's family background, and Yang Chen did not hide anything from them at all. Psychologically, everyone felt that they were closer to Yang Chen. Of course, the key was to know that a Zhu and a Bai would never be a threat. This was the key point. The most important thing was that Yang Chen already had a magic weapon that could cross the tribulation at any time. Thinking of the 5 revolutions questioning inner heart pill that he saw not long ago, it seemed that his husband was constantly creating miracles. Chapter 1341. Of course, the 5 revolutions questioning inner heart pill was once again valued by the women. Everyone happily asked Yang Chen about the changes after the calamity of the profound spirit furnace. After Yang Chen also answered one by one, the happy upsurge of the women slowly extinguished. Husband, we have studied the array diagram. When will we go to the third danger zone to see it? Gong Sunling saw that everyone was quiet, so she threw out a topic that surprised Yang Chen. Speaking of it, Gong Sunling and the Murong sisters have been studying the array diagram for several years. Yang Chen did not calculate it himself. It took him 6 years to refine the 5 revolutions questioning inner heart pill. In the past few years, Gong Sunling had figured out the array diagram, but they had been waiting for Yang Chen to finish the alchemy, and then they would go to explore the third danger zone together. This array diagram was actually not more complicated than the demon seal array. Gong Sunling did not take such a long time to lay out the array according to the array diagram of the demon seal array. Of course, this was not to say that Gong Sunling's level was not enough, but the two were somewhat different. The arrangement of the demon seal array was just equivalent to the construction according to the drawings. You could ignore the principle and don't worry about how to break the array, as long as the array was laid out. Now this array diagram, it was necessary for Gong Sunling to study how to safely enter the array that has been activated or simply break the array. The difficulty was naturally different. Fortunately, Gong Sunling's attainments in the array were really not low. After so many years, with the help of the Murong sisters, she found a safe passage to enter the array in the array diagram. Just waiting for Yang Chen to wake up, they would enter the danger zone to explore. What are you waiting for? Hurry up! Yang Chen immediately came up with spirit. Good things came one after another. He was now eager to know if there was the pure and true fire he was looking for in the third danger zone. When Yang Chen was alchemy, Gong Sunling had taken everyone to the outside of the third danger zone. When they came to the real world from the mountain river geographical map, they stood not far in front of the danger zone. During the few years that Yang Chen's family disappeared, the space under the Languel was not peaceful at all. Ever since the discovery of a magic treasure for crossing tribulations, many people had been deliberately searching for the whereabouts of the magic treasure. During this period, it was unknown how many disputes had occurred and how many lives had been lost. Over the past few years, they had not been able to find the whereabouts of Yang Chen's family. Fighting and killing each other without the right person was really not worth it. After discovering this, everyone finally calmed down a little and went on their own to find their own opportunities. The formations that had yet to be opened became their target. However, in the end, the danger zone was still a danger zone. There were a few dozen people who did not give up and charged in with all their might. After becoming corpses, the people who came later knew that they did not have any opportunities, so they did not try their luck here. Right now, there was no one in the danger zone. Yang Chen's family appeared here. Basically, there were only a dozen of them and no one else. However, Yang Chen immediately discovered that someone was using their divine sense to monitor this place from a distance. Come to think of it, there were still people who did not give up. Yang Chen could not be bothered with these guys. Now, what he was most concerned about was whether there was pure and true fire inside and nothing else. If those people wanted to monitor him, then so be it. Anyway, they did not dare to enter the array formation. After exhorting everyone, Gong Sunling took the lead and charged into the array formation of the third danger zone. Among the people who had been monitoring from a distance, there were a few guides who had pointed out the 3 great danger zones to Yang Chen. They definitely knew that Yang Chen was the person who had the alchemy furnace for crossing tribulations, so they had been waiting. Their hard work paid off. Finally, they waited for Yang Chen's family. The disappearance of the 2 great danger zones, the Ancestral Master Hall and the Dragon Scale Danger Zone, made the guides suspect that Yang Chen's family had something to do with it. Especially when they recognized that the alchemy furnace for crossing tribulations belonged to Yang Chen, they were even more certain of this idea. They did not cross the tribulation earlier or later, but they crossed the tribulation in the Languel. If they did not get something good in it, only ghosts would believe it. Of course, there would not be such a great opportunity in an ordinary place. The good things definitely came from the 3 great danger zones. The fact that 2 dangerous places had been destroyed in a row proved this point even more clearly. In particular, after Yang Chun asked about the 3 great danger zones, 2 of the danger zones had consecutive accident. If it was not Yang Chen's family, who else could it be? Now, they finally waited for Yang Chen's family to appear in front of the 3rd danger zone. Moreover, they did not seem to hesitate and directly walked into the array formation of the danger zone. Everyone could not wait to rush forward. They used their divine sense to explore unscrupulously, waiting to see the result after Yang Chen's family entered the array formation. According to common sense, as long as a person entered at most 20 steps, they would trigger the attack of the array formation and die. The power of the array formation was so strong that the masters of the Deshang stage could not retreat from this mere 20 steps and could only fall in the array formation. However, Yang Chen's family had been in for a long time. From the distance, it was definitely more than 50 steps, but they did not trigger the attack of the array formation. What did this mean? Those who were secretly monitoring almost couldn't wait to rush to the front of the danger zone and wanted to figure out what was going on. Even the people who rushed to the front had no scruples to make the light and wanted to see the situation here. Yang Chen's family really did not have an accident. This was the truth that more than a dozen people saw with their own eyes. Right in front of them, Yang Chen's family easily passed through the array formation and then disappeared into the danger zone, but they could only watch and did not dare to go further. That array formation was a natural barrier, blocking them outside. Wait, they will always come out. There were not many people who rushed over, only a dozen. Of course, the fewer people who knew the secret, the better. Watching Yang Chen's family enter the danger zone, it was impossible not to envy them, but they could do nothing but wait. At the same time, everyone also made up their minds. Even if they didn't talk about Yang Chen's alchemy furnace, just the harvest from entering the 3 danger zones was worth it for them to make a move. Yang Chen's family, who had already entered the danger zone, ignored the feelings of those people outside. They were now happy with the scene they saw in front of them. How could they care about other things? The 3rd danger zone was really related to the Ancestral Master Hall, or rather, it was related to the ancient sect. This was simply a place similar to the sect's secret pavilion. The location where everyone was located was a relatively small space, only 100 miles, but it was full of good things everywhere. With a casual exploration of spiritual awareness, one could find a magic weapon or material. Most of the collections of the ancient sect were here. Yang Chen's face also showed a smile. The unique feeling of a powerful fire seed in a certain place made him completely relieved. This trip was not in vain.